Okay, good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, February 17th. If we'll start with Doug with an invocation. If everyone would please stand.
Almighty God, we humbly come before you, acknowledging your sovereignty over all things. We thank you for your presence with us. We also thank you for your blessings on our community. As we consider the task of governance within our community, we ask you to guide our thoughts and hearts, and we ask that you grant to each of us wisdom, discernment, and understanding. Father, each of us prays to you, and prays in the manner in which we were taught to pray. Amen.
Amen. You'd follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome and good evening, everyone out there. We have a lot to cover here in a short time. I know there's no football on tonight, but going to bed at a decent time would be nice. So I'm just going to take a little out of order here. I know the first thing I'd like to do is a police appointment. So if Chief and your crew would come up and we'll start that would be great.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief. How are you?
Thank you for having us tonight. I'm here tonight on a couple of issues. The first one being to advise the board that we've had a lateral transfer request from one of our full-time police officers here in Georgetown. It's been an unusual event in years past that we have laterals, but this is the second one that we've had on the police department, and unfortunately I'm hearing that there may be another. And the reason for this is twofold. Officers are coming here to Georgetown with the hopes of starting and completing a career here, but at times officers can be drawn back to their original community, such as where they grew up, a civil service list or a call, and a myriad of other issues, a benefits package, insurance, and all of those things. But nonetheless, it's happened to us. This is the second time it's happened to us this fiscal year, and the first was a dispatcher left for another community with an increase in pay. I now have an officer looking elsewhere and going as early as last week and possibly going in the beginning of March. So I need to fill that position as soon as possible, and the timing of such is the academies are only offered every 6 months. So I've been able to secure a position in the academy, as you know, because I've been before you many times with the retirements in the last couple of years. It takes 6 months to get that certified training. We're not allowed to use reserve officers in a full-time capacity because of fair standard labor and so forth. So I'm here tonight to present to you Officer Matthew Carapellucci. Officer Carapellucci has been a reserve officer with us since 2012. He is a full-time dispatcher for the town of Tewksbury and has been in that process both part-time and full-time since 2007. He holds a bachelor's degree, and for me personally, I've been working with Matt now for about 4 years. He's probably one of the finest young officers I've had the opportunity to work with. A couple of his attributes that I can attest to is extremely knowledgeable. He's smart. He's very patient. He's a 21st century police officer, which we desperately need today, as we all know, with American policing. And I think the best attribute that I see in Matt is that he's kind. And we need people in our profession to be kind. And I think that's what I get when I describe Officer Carapellucci. He's here tonight with his wife, Gina, as well as his mother and father, Ken and Cheryl. And I welcome them to Georgetown for this occasion. And Mr. Chairman, I respectfully ask that the board appoint Matthew as our next full-time officer. He'll have a start date of March 14th, which is the start date of the Reading Police Academy. And his appointment is to expire June 30th of 2016. And then he'll be reappointed with the other staff at that time when we bring the list over for appointment. He'll have a slated graduation date of 6 months thereafter. It moves around a little bit depending on snow days and so forth. The great thing is he's already trained, he's already certified, he has all of the equipment, so we have already purchased that equipment, which is nice. The caveat to this position, though, and I had brought this to the attention of the town administrator, that with this lateral situation going on, police departments poaching other candidates from other police departments, so to speak, I've asked the town administrator, who asked town council, that we put together a retention agreement so that we can solidify a 3-year retention agreement for the cost of sending officers through the academy. And it's been vetted through the union, it's been vetted through Mike's office, and Officer Carapellucci signed it, as did the town administrator. So that's in place. I have a copy of that, which will be forwarded to you as well. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Chief, I appreciate it. You go by Matt or Matthew?
Whatever you prefer, doesn't matter.
Mr. Kind or Mr. Smart? And if you truly are a 21st century police officer, then we would like to hang out with you. I know the chief and I, to try to help us dinosaurs figure out what that means out there. But Matt, you've been working with the chief for a while, and we're excited to have you continue your career with us here in Georgetown.
Appreciate that.
I'd love to give you an opportunity to share some words for us, for the community. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? What do you like? What are your hobbies? What can we expect to see you doing out on the road?
More recently, I assisted with starting an Explorer program with the department, which is geared towards high school age students that are interested in law enforcement. It's been a little bumpy start, but we're getting it up and running. We got to get a little more kids involved, so kind of meet once a month, take them on field trips and stuff like that, canine demonstrations, kind of go over policies, procedures, everything like that.
Sure.
So starting to get involved with that with the town, and I'll be here to stay. I know I signed the 3-year, but my wife and I have grown to love this town. Never heard of it before I actually applied here, but I've grown to love this community. I look forward to working here every day I come in and put on the uniform, and I'm very eager to do that full time and looking forward to it, given the opportunity.
Well, Matt, I grew up in Linfield next door. I had never heard of Georgetown. So, now look at us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so gentlemen, I'll give you an opportunity to state anything or have any questions.
Now, you have a degree in criminal justice?
Yes, sir. Bachelor's degree.
Where'd you go?
UMass Law.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Good. And have you been doing law enforcement since when?
2007. I started as a part-time dispatcher with Tewksbury, and I got hired there full-time 2008.
So you'd be leaving that position to come
Yes, yeah, I'll be leaving that to come here. Yep, exactly.
here? Right. Well, good. We look forward to having you and bolstering the police force.
Thank you.
Nah, I'm okay. Hope it works out.
All right. Well, Matt, it looks like we've got a little handcuffs on you with this agreement regarding training. So, we're starting off there. But with that, then, I need a motion to appoint Matthew Carapellucci as a full-time officer to the Georgetown Police Department with a start date of March 14th, 2016, and an expiration date of June 30th, 2016.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Oh, congratulations, my friend.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
my friend. Look
Appreciate
forward
it.
to seeing you
Thank
out
you
there.
very much.
Good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
If there are any family members that would like to also have their picture
Sorry,
taken
sir.
with the
Thank
chief,
you.
please come
Appreciate
on
it.
up and you can have your pictures taken as well.
We can step out, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll do that
have
so
to
you
take
can.
this down to the town clerk, so you'll have to go get sworn in.
Yes, as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, that's not effective till the. She'll swear you in before that. Go get your picture.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Who seconded, we know? Doug, did you make the motion?
Yes. Oh, yes. Hang on one second.
All right, let's take care of a few things of business here. So, the warrant is to be signed. It's downstairs. I think you guys have signed it already. If you haven't, please do. We have some meeting minutes that we need to approve from a few prior meetings that we've held.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the executive session minutes of January 25, 2016.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
There's an A and B on that.
Yep.
Yes.
I have B.
You want a separate motion for B?
Let's get,
I can do
It's,
A and B,
it's, yeah,
because they were one meeting, well,
It was the same, yeah.
same day, and just two separate sets.
Two separate reasons for the meeting, though.
okay. Are you guys comfortable with A?
Yes.
All those in favor
Aye.
of the motion, say aye. Aye. Okay, now we have B.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the executive session minutes of January 25, 2016, marked B, 6:30 PM.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, and we have the 19th.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the minutes of October 19th. Can I do all of the rest of these? Just, November 16th and December 24th of 2015.
I have,
So 10, 19, 11,
10, 19, 11, 16, and December 14.
and
Oh,
12.
and 21.
30.
And November 3rd.
No, I haven't read them over at this point. I think
Okay.
they came today.
Yeah,
Okay.
And I didn't get to read those. I'm going on the,
Gotcha. So we have the minutes for October 19th, November 16th, and December 14th,
and December 21st.
21st.
and December 21st.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on those? Great. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we'll hold off on this is November 30th until we get a chance to get through that.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so we have to open up a hearing this evening for a dog complaint. So let me get my ducks in a row here on the document. Okay, can I get a motion to open up the dog complaint hearing?
I thought you could just open that. Your motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to, would you make,
Open the dog complaint hearing.
no names are needed?
From the Settlements.
Okay, I'd like to open a dog complaint hearing to do with, I think it's Ms. Settlemeyer. We need the dog's name. I think it's called Diesel here in the front of
Yes,
the
it
packet.
is. Yep,
So,
okay. I
Okay,
need a second?
Second.
All right. We'll open up the hearing. Okay. What I'd like to do first is, just from a process standpoint, for the public's sake, I'd like to ask our chief and anyone that was part of the investigation, and Officer Jones was part of that, if they would come up, share with the public the chronological chain of events that you've investigated, help the public understand the purpose of the hearing of what we found, and then what I'll do from there is I will ask the complainant to please come to the board as well to help us understand that side of the story, and then I'll do the same with the owner of the dog. So since this is a public hearing, I need to get an oath. Do you, Officer Jones, solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Do you, Chief Gudmore, promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. All right. if you would help us and help the public understand what happened and the purpose of this
Okay,
hearing.
Mr. Chairman, what I'll do is I'll give a chronological order of events. I'll let Detective Jones fill in the details as he was the person on the ground, so to speak. But in a encapsulation, and for the sake of time, there was a dog incident between two pet owners on North Street. And as a result, one of the animals had sustained some pretty serious injuries. And in investigating the case, the person's dog that was involved in the incident was cited for some local town bylaw violations. And in the interim, while the investigation was going on, the folks' dog who was victimized had written a letter to the board based on the ability to have this hearing and determine whether the dog is a nuisance or a dangerous dog. And under the statute, that would be the delineation between what the board would find in their holding this hearing. So that's really the crux of the complaint. I'll turn it over to Detective Jones. He can go over the timeline, so you're familiar with the timeline, and then I can fill in with regard to the administration of the animal control program as he goes along.
Great, thank you, Chief.
Back on January, it was Tuesday, January 26th, that's when the incident occurred, roughly around 4 p.m., I believe, sometime after 4, where Settlemeyer's dog had gotten loose from its own yard, which is fenced in, was able to scale over a fence, and in doing so, it attacked the neighbor's dog, Mr. Rossio's dog, Mrs. Rossio's dog. I was notified around 9:51 p.m. that night. I received an email from the animal health inspector. I actually checked my email around 10:30 that night, just before I went to bed. It was sent around 9:51 p.m. And she had advised me that this incident occurred, and wanted to get the Settlemeyer's, the dog owner's information as far as their home phone number or whatever, just make contact with them to start the 10-day quarantine. Now, she was notified of this incident because she was actually working at the Riverside Animal Clinic just over in Haverhill.
Sure.
That's where the Rosses had brought their dog initially. And so she was made aware of it then. And so I immediately texted her the information she was looking for as far as the phone numbers to Mr. and Mrs. Settlemeyer. The very next morning when I came into work, I think it was probably around 8 o'clock in the morning, I had emailed the animal health inspector just to make sure she received my text and whatnot. She said yes, she did, and she went ahead and contacted the dog owners, Joe and Heather Settlemeyer, as far as starting the 10-day quarantine for the dog under the statute. Along with that, I started doing my investigation shortly thereafter, where turns out, there was some violations as far as the dog being loose. There's a leash law violation there, and turns out the dog, the Settlemeyer's dog, rabies vaccination had expired. I believe it was probably 2 weeks prior to that. I have the exact dates in the report. So there's 2 violations there which they were cited for. Mrs. Settlemeyer was cited for because she is the registered owner of the dog.
Right. Okay.
And I think too, just to add to the report, just for clarity, Holly Willard was our animal inspector, longtime animal inspector. She had resigned her position, and coincidentally, our new animal inspector happens to work in a full-time capacity with the veterinarian clinic that the Rossios brought their pet to. And as a result of that visit, I think it should be noted that the medical bills for the animal had exceeded, I believe, $10,000 or $12,000.
No.
No,
They're around.
to 10.
about 10. Okay, about $10,000. I don't know if they were still treating the animal at the time. So obviously that's a concern. We have some photographs that were taken the day of and of the property lines between the respective property owners' properties with regard to fencing and things like that, because the residents are close together there. And what's the big dog's name?
Diesel.
Diesel. He's a Great Dane, or she's a Great Dane. That's a big animal, so I'm sure the fences need to be able to deal with a pet that size. So I think they double-sized the boundary there. So from our perspective with animal control, our jobs, we attempt to mediate, mitigate, and try to help people get through these. The Georgetown Police receives about 40 animal calls for service a month. Anything from rabies to dog bites to situations like this. So this is not an unusual occurrence for us. We do try to work with our residents and try to assist them in any way we can to ensure that, you know, there's some type of resolution brought to their issue because of the quality of life issues that can evolve from these things. And at that point, with regard to payments and bills and so forth, it becomes a civil issue, and we try to retract a little bit because our authority gets weak, and we don't want to represent either side. We just want them to try to deal with the situation and try to move on.
Gotcha. And in your opinion, is everything that you've tried to do pretty standard in terms of trying to?
Yeah, there's a protocol that we do in responding to these calls. Obviously, we check for previous incidents. I know that Detective Jones interviewed some neighbors, and there have been some issues. There was another issue concerning the quarantine where the dog may have been loose again. That was vetted out through the Department of Health concerning making sure the dog was tethered or leashed during this quarantine period. And then the animal inspection process comes back in to release quarantine on an animal that's been involved in a bite situation or a vaccination issue that needs to be re-examined by the animal inspection. There's animal inspection and animal control. They're two different offices.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. So, and just for the public's sake, so I guess there's a few outcomes of this hearing that could be made. One, if we finalize any decision, if there is any decision made. One, if the board deems that the dog is a nuisance, there's a level of mitigation that happens there. If it's deemed dangerous, there's serious consequences for the owner and the pet themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, in seeing these situations before, what would you advise the Board of Selectmen?
Well, I think you need to, you know, listen to both parties, see where this particular situation is. The new statute, post-2012, the boards of selectmen and various authorities had much more leeway in dealing with punitive and so forth with regard to animals. There was a change in 2012. The hearing authority is to deem the dog a nuisance or a danger. Right. So there's two different categories, depending on the testimony of the folks that are involved and the issues that have gone on down there. And then based on that particular determination is where the board would sit relative to their finding of possibly mediating with some type of action to resolve the issue as a nuisance, or there are 5 categories concerning if a dog is considered dangerous. Yeah. To our knowledge, the only report that's ever been issued, the only report we received relative to this particular animal was this incident, which was sent to us via email by the animal inspector. So we don't have anything on record. Doesn't mean there's nothing going on. Yes. Sometimes neighborhoods do not call police on dog issues. We are the keeper of records, so if it happens, we bring those records forward for review. We've had hearings like this in the past. I attended one. I was the last to attend as a lieutenant, but that was an easy one. That dog had a lot of problems and had bitten human beings and so forth. So the board's decision and determination was fairly straightforward due to the fact that there was some pretty heavy evidence that that animal had some issues. Right. But in this case, I think that the folks here, on a positive note, both families are great families in our community. They seem to be working together, hopefully trying to resolve it, and that's not always the case. Yep. So I think that, you know, if we can look at a positive part to this whole situation, is at least we have some good folks here that something has gone wrong, and maybe we can help them through it.
Okay. All right. Before I let you guys go for a moment, any questions from you gentlemen?
I would, I guess if
I guess.
the difference between a nuisance and the dangerous, I mean, if we were to declare a nuisance, how would you enforce that, or what would we expect of the owners of the dog?
Well, what I've seen in the past is if a dog is considered a nuisance animal, there's particular guidelines that the board can issue to the pet owner, and if those guidelines are followed, and there is some resolution to the animal's activities, then so be it, the problem is solved. If there are continual violations under that nuisance standard, it would have to be taken to the next level, depending, of course, on what those nuisances are. A dog running loose and biting someone is two different issues. And we have all of that going on here in Georgetown, as we're all aware, depending on which neighborhood you're in. So very few make it to this level because, again, we try to resolve it and try to have the folks work it out so that there's no legal ramifications to them as pet owners. But, you know, I mean, we have to represent everyone, including the victims of some dog issues here in town.
And then as to dangerous, that would mean removal of the dog and.
If it,
One way-
under the new statute, the remedy for a dog that's been deemed dangerous, there are 5 different, actually there's more, there's 7 now. And, I mean, obviously, it goes from humanly restraining an animal with a myriad of confinement issues in between, including additional insurance on an animal that's deemed dangerous, meeting with the licensing authority and animal control on a regular basis, and ultimately humanly euthanizing an animal if in fact it needs to be done. So it goes from just a simple confinement
There is
to
a
the worst
rather-
scenario.
Yeah, there is a rather easy level on that of confinement.
That's correct. It's interesting in this new law, and what I learned by having this come forward is that the restrainment of an animal based on the issuance by the authority, it specifically states that the dog be humanely restrained, provided, however, that order shall provide that a dog deemed dangerous be chained, tethered. You cannot order that anymore like you could in the past. So you can't order a dog tethered to a pole or to a building. It has to be confined in a humane manner, which would be a kennel or something like that. That was new post-2012.
So if it was in a fenced-in area, that would.
Yeah, I guess, you know, there were various studies concerning tying dogs up for long periods of time and whether it's not healthy for them or whatever. But I think that they give you the opportunity to provide a kenneling type confinement versus being tied to a pole or a tree.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Gary. Doug?
I would kind of like to hear from both the parties.
Okay.
We just got the letter from the Settlements, you know, packet from the Settlements. But I would like to hear each side of the allegations.
Does anybody need any photographs? You guys are all, I made
what
copies
you
for them.
sent, what you
so-
sent, all
All
right.
right.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, I'll ask you to go back and take your seats if you wouldn't mind. I'd like to call up the complainant or the victim, though, if there's anyone here representing the Rousios, if you could please come to the table. All right, for the record, would you please state your names?
Gina Rossio.
James Rossio?
Okay, Jane, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Gina, do you promise to
do.
tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, wonderful. So please, if you could share with us what happened.
Okay,
first-
I take my dog for a walk every day.
Yeah.
We've had him for 12 years. We've had other dogs that have gotten loose, you know, come at you, and generally you can yell and they just run away. I mean, it's never been an issue, but this time I was walking the dog across the street. I don't walk in front of their house because they have 3 dogs. And there was a lady with a small dog coming the same side of the sidewalk. So I just waved to her. I had looked over in the yard. I didn't see that dog. So I crossed the street and she waved to me, thank you. And when I crossed the street, I didn't go on the sidewalk. I stayed out in the road and I had the dog on the grass pot. And apparently their dog was waiting around the house. They have no view of it over there. And that's where it jumped the fence. And when it jumped the fence, it instantly bit my dog's leg. And it just wouldn't let go. It just kept biting it. It at one point was shaking it. Then it had him around his throat. And the neighbor came home, and I was obviously screaming at that point for help. He came home, he pulled the dog off, and And then he stood there with the dog, and he said to me, he said something like, I don't know how the dog got out, and the dog got away from him again. And when he got away from him the second time, I mean, my dog was already, his leg was shattered, he was in shock. He knocked me to the ground, he knocked the dog to the ground, and then he clamped onto his stomach and wouldn't let go. Again, I was screaming, and that's when he got him off and brought him in the house. But it was very terrifying. The dog just, it wasn't like a, I don't want to say a normal dog incident, but this dog was just not letting go. Even when he had him by the neck, this dog just, it was like it, I don't want to sound ridiculous, but it was almost like he planned it. You know, the way he was waiting for us around the corner, and we never even saw it. It wasn't like the dogs barked at each other. I mean, our yards are right up to each other. So they do go out there and bark at each other, growl at each other. It's never been anything more than that. But, I mean, this was just like a total surprise. That's why I'm really concerned about this dog, is just the fact of how it happened and how he just would not let go. It was very upsetting.
Would you like to add anything to that?
I wasn't there, and so I came in, she called me in a panic pretty much and said, I need help, and so I worked very close by. I came home, and by that time, our focus at that time was just trying to get our animal to a vet. It was obvious that it was severely injured, and our focus at that point was just trying to get the dog to a vet as soon as possible to do what we could for it.
Right. You know, you mentioned that in the history has been pretty much the dogs just barking at each other between the fence, right?
Yeah, and usually when I'm in the backyard, I always walked out there and would say, Max, come over here, you know, and he'd leave the fence. It's never been like they're, like, I mean, you know, like dogs do, growl, and you tell them stop, and they stop, you know?
What do you hope to get out of this meeting tonight, by the way?
I'm not really sure. I'm just more concerned over how vicious the attack was. I have never experienced something like that. My biggest concern is that the fact he couldn't hold him, the dog broke free from him, and if the dog gets out again, our yards are right up to each other. I have no doubt that dog's going to come running in our yard again, or maybe it'll hurt another dog in the neighborhood. I don't know. I just... You know, if this was, like I said, if this was just the dogs went at it and then he went back in the yard, I wouldn't be sitting here. It was the nature of it. I mean, he shattered a dog's leg. It's in like a metal rod through his leg with pins. I mean,
By biting or?
by biting it. I actually brought
We brought copies of everything.
that I got another more detailed explanation of it, but. Before they operated on him, they had said it was so, I don't know what word I'm using.
The injury, they basically said the injury was so severe, if the dog had been younger, they would have suggested amputation of the paw.
Yeah,
That's how severe the injury was, but they said at our dog's age, which is 12 years, almost 13, he'd never be able to adjust to that.
right. So it wasn't just like a simple bite or, you know, pull your dog. It was
Both
just
bones,
very-
one was shattered, both bones were broken completely, but one was shattered.
So, we've got to make a decision here tonight as a board, and whatever decision we have is going to hopefully have the right consequences and the right remediation here, or at least get us down the path to that. Do you see a way to have the dog next door, you know, remain at that residence with any additional fencing, or I'm just trying to, what would make you happy? I'm trying to get
It's
at.
hard to say yes when it jumped over a fence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and you're the person that it's coming at.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, right now I'm petrified of that dog, you know, and it's like, unfortunately, our houses are butt up to each other, you know.
My
and
wife or both of our children won't go even out into the backyard with the dog or anything. They're just living in fear since this all happened, all of us.
So what would remove that, other than removing the dog? Is there anything that's a compromise that you would be looking for?
That's why we came before you. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
want to be here, Phil. We don't want to be here. We need some resolution. We'd like to be able to enjoy our property the way we have for almost
course.
30 years and not be, live in fear. That's really where we've been since the 26th of January.
Gotcha. I can understand.
It's horrible. It's just, our lives have been turned upside down by this.
Yep, and we don't want to make any rash decisions that are going to not help you, and also be a rash decision for the dog owner as well to do something, draconian if we don't have to. Let me open this up for questions and comments from my board. Gentlemen, do you have any questions?
I do. You had mentioned that you don't walk your dog in front of Sotomayor's house.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been an ongoing thing, and why?
Not so, they had 2 dogs and they got 3, and their fence is so close to the sidewalk that there was a big gap in the fence, so all the heads would stick out. And one of them's pretty mellow, but the other 2 are aggressive. And it just was always like a match to get your dog past their house. I mean, a lot of people, if you live in the neighborhood, you'll notice cross the street, go around, cross the street that way.
People do that?
Yeah. The lady that came over and gave me her name as a witness, because she saw the whole thing, had mentioned to me how many people she sees doing that, you know. It's not just us. I know they feel like it's just us about their dog. We realize it's their dog, but it's not just us.
She
And-
was interviewed by Detective Jones.
Yeah.
He interviewed Karen.
How high was the fence?
that the dog jumped over.
I know Great Dane's a big dog.
The one that he came over was probably 3.5 feet. Was chicken wire. Chicken wire fence.
Yeah, we had a fence up. We have a fence, and it's like a metal chain link fence, and it runs down the side of their house. And then they put a piece of chicken wire across, and the dogs run behind there and use that as their bathroom. And that's the problem; they can't see it. And he had rushed the fence a few times, and I bought some lattice to put up, so at least when we come in our driveway, we didn't have to constantly have this dog rushing the
Like a
fence.
privacy.
Yeah, because you can't, I mean, they
Just to
can't
shield
see
it.
what he's doing.
to shield
and
them.
it's almost like he knows that, so that's where he does,
So you wouldn't say the dogs had issues with each other, or they?
Oh, yeah.
What was the nature of their?
Yeah, they don't like each other. I mean, not all dogs like each other. They obviously don't. I mean, they have another dog that he likes.
Well, now you said you were attacked.
Yeah,
You didn't get bit.
no. He knocked me to the ground twice. The second time was when he let go of the dog, that he knocked me down. He's a big dog. That's my concern. He's a big dog, and if the owner can't control him, I don't see what you're going to do if he gets free again. Everybody's kept saying something about a higher fence, and I'm like, how high can the fence go if you can't control the dog if he gets out? They have 3 small children, 3 dogs. The fence could get left open. That's my biggest concern, is that the fence will get left open, or he'll be on the side of the house, I mean, for now, they put another piece of wire up on top of what he jumped over. I don't even feel safe with that.
How high is that?
I don't know.
Say they're maybe a couple feet higher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
4 feet?
yeah.
and there's like a gap, from the house, like there's a hole there. I mean, it's a big dog. The way it went over that fence, it's like, you have to realize how strong the dog is.
Very powerful animal.
Yeah.
Oh, they are big.
Mm.
I used to ride them when I was a kid.
Gary?
You've touched a little bit on the question that I had for you, and that was since January 26th, have this in your opinion, the Settlemeyer's done any work to fence or restrain Diesel?
Not
I mean,
on
they
our
did put
side.
they did put that one fence up that she spoke about, but we went to Home Depot a few days after the fact, just because nothing had been done, and we bought chicken wire and tops, and we upped the fence all along our property line on the backside ourselves. We did that. So the only fence in between us and them is our fence.
what type of fence, I guess, can
Well,
you explain? I
We
mean,
actually,
how
my wife,
far are the
she
poles?
she actually called the fence company to try to get a professional to come in there, but they said they, under these type of conditions, they couldn't do it until,
But that's, you're doing,
right,
that's-
because
you're
we
doing
just
that
don't feel safe,
because of
Gary. We want,
fear.
yeah, we wanted to try to up it so that this dog couldn't come across, because the fence on the backside was the same height as the one the dog went over.
It's one I put up when my dog was a puppy.
So I mean.
That's
I
the only
guess is it-
fence dividing our houses.
Jim mentioned chicken wire. Is
Yeah.
it a chicken?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
from
that
one
roll
section of
stuff,
it is, yes.
You know, that
Yes, it
You
is.
put a top over that.
We doubled it and then put a top over it, so it's probably 6 feet high with one of those blue tops. It's a temporary thing
So the
until,
question was, really have the Settlemeyers that you mentioned earlier?
No, we did that.
No, we
I
did
thought you mentioned that they had gone out and put something, was that since January 26th or prior to that?
Oh, to the top of where
Yes.
the, I don't know when they put it
well,
up.
that front section where the dog came over initially, that's they did add to
That's-
that fence, yes.
Okay,
That-
since, so.
Yes, they
had
did,
made
yes.
Some effort, but.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'll address on.
Yeah.
Further, I guess, if we talk to them.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't have any more questions for you at this moment.
Okay.
Thank you, and I'm sorry this happened to you.
Thank you for your consideration, Mr. Chairman.
Please have a seat, we may ask you to come back if we have to. May I have representatives for the Settlemeyers, or Mr. Settlemeyer? How you doing, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I have like a very bad cold, so I
That's
I
all
forgot
right.
to talk, but
We'll be quiet so we can definitely hear you. If
Okay.
you wouldn't mind stating your names and address for the record?
sure, it's Heather Settlemeyer, 67 North Street.
Joe Settlemeyer, same address.
All right, Heather, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the God?
I do.
All right. All right, so we've heard, so I don't know about these guys. I've been around dogs all my life. Myself, I have a sister who's a veterinarian who brings in dogs that can't be owned because of some problems. So I've seen the whole gamut of what dogs are capable of doing and how sweet they can be and how challenging they can be. But I wanted to just get a sense from you guys. Is there, from the events that were just told to us from both the animal control officer and the chief of police as well as the Rousios, is there anything in your chronological events that differ from what was said? I'm just trying to get a sense of, if what was just stated, do you concur with what happened?
No.
So,
Help me understand that.
she was inside, so
And I was in the after fact. I was holding Max
Okay.
up for 15 minutes while Gina got to call Jim and get a blanket and that type of thing. That's where I was.
Yeah.
I didn't witness the situation. Joe was there, so he can probably.
I got
Elaborate
home.
more.
I was just got home from the fire department
Yeah.
about 4:15, and I saw as I pulled in because we have gates across our driveway. It's a completely fenced-in yard with gates, 2 8-foot gates that close. So when I come home, if the gates are closed, I pull in, take the dogs inside, open the gates, pull in, close the gates. Gates were closed, so I pulled in, got out, and I immediately saw Diesel on the Rossio side of our house, where there's it runs the length of the house. It's about, I don't know, 10 feet wide. And there's the fence there is not chicken wire; it's a chain link fence
That he jumped over. The one he jumped over
that
is
he
chain link.
got over. It's
I have pictures.
there's
of
one
them.
post in the middle on each side, and he was able to get out. We didn't realize we've been able to do that.
There's a dip
but he
where a
could-
tree bent it, so that's where he went over. I have a picture of it too, if you need that.
So when I pulled in, he was there outside. So I immediately went towards him to grab him to put him back in the fence. While he went, Gina and Max were, kind of right there in the sidewalk grass area in front of that section. So he went after her. I mean, we're not denying anything happened. I mean, obviously we feel terrible that it happened. But he got to Max, and they kind of, From my perspective, they got, they kind of went up at each other on their hind legs, as dogs do. And Diesel, I don't 100% recall where he went for, but I had a hold of Diesel's collar and I was trying to pry his mouth open to get him to release. As far as, eventually I was able to, he had a hold of Max's scruff right here on the back of the neck. He had a hold of it. I got him finally loose. And that, I had a hold of him and that was it. As far as, Gina did fall down. She was pulling, when Diesel came over, she had Max on the leash and she was pulling on the leash to try to get Max away from Diesel. So I had to hold Diesel, and with them spinning and twisting, Gina, it got tangled up in the leash and ended up falling over onto Max, because I had Diesel on my left arm at that time. But regardless, I definitely, in my opinion, don't think my dog knocked her over. Yes, he went after their dog. But then as far as that, I got him away and I held on to him and seeing to make sure everybody's okay. Said, sorry, I don't know how he got out. Once I saw Max's leg, it was an obvious fracture to his leg. I took Diesel inside. I got my wife, Heather, and went outside and helped him. Heather was already out there, I guess, and helped get the dog into their car so they could take it to the vet and get treated. That was as far as the incident. I don't know if there's anything else.
And that's when I came out and I said, what happened? And the woman, I don't know who it was on the other side of the street. And she said, she pointed to the direction of where the scuffle was, because I was coming around the house. And I came over to where Max was, and there was another person there, I don't know, and Gina. And then I just held on to the bottom of Max to hold him up, because his arm was definitely like this. This was his whole arm, and it was bent here. And he couldn't hold himself up on that side, so I was holding him, and I believe there was someone that knew Gina and said, Gina, go call Jim, or, go get a blanket or something. There was a couple times that Gina came and went, and I was there holding Max, and I just said at one point to Gina, I said, I'm so sorry this happened. I can't believe this happened. And she returned with, Heather, I don't know what you're going to do with that dog. And I said, I didn't respond. I didn't think that was the time to, get into anything like that. But I stayed with them, helped. Jim arrived. Gina was trying to reach him. It was emotional in that moment. She was trying to get a hold of him and had to make multiple calls to get him. And it was definitely, stressful. And then Jim arrived. He pulled up and he was calming, Gina down, trying to make her feel better, and the way he was talking to her. And I said, you guys, you're going to want to put him on the blanket and get him into your car. And we did that. We put the blanket underneath, sat him down, and got him into the car. I said, Jim, what can I do? What can I do? He said, we're all set for now. I said, okay. So, and then that was that. We went inside, and I composed a letter to them. And I said, I'm so terribly sorry this happened. We are a lover of animals. We wouldn't ever want this happen to any animal. We will do everything within our power to do what needs to be done to our fence so Diesel cannot get out. And please give us the vet bills. We will totally take care of it, and we'll come up with a payment plan, and we'll figure it out. Again, so sorry. And I brought that over to their house. They were at the emergency place, and I placed it kind of in their door slot. And then the next day we went over. We checked at the end of the day. We said, hey, we're just coming over to check. How's Max? And, they opened the door and straight armed. You know what, guys? We're not ready to talk to you. We're just focusing on Max right now. I said, we're not coming to talk about anything but is your dog okay and how is he doing? And she explained a little bit about the surgery, and that yes, he came out of surgery. We were concerned he wasn't going to come out of surgery, and that type of thing with doing surgery for a dog that's 12 or 13. And she said yes, he came out, and he's got rod on his leg and so forth. We said okay, best of luck. And she said we will meet with you next week. We'll get together. We'll meet with you next week, and we'll talk about some things. That didn't happen. I'm not sure why. We thought that would happen, but it didn't. So
Tell me about the dog a little bit. How long have you owned the dog for? How old is the dog?
Diesel is 4 years old.
Yep.
He is a Great Dane mix. He's black and brindle, like a little brown and black. He's described as a real gentle giant, and his demeanor is affectionate and loving and very submissive with us and our children, and our youngest is 4. And she will tell him what to do and he will respond. There are people that come in and out of our property that there's zero problem with. Does he guard his property? Yes. Do my other dogs guard our property at the fence? Yes. Do they announce people? Absolutely. We've put some bark collars on them so that it doesn't escalate beyond an announcement. We were starting to see a while ago, years ago, that they were starting to escalate too much. We didn't approve of that. I've been a volunteer for dog humane societies and police dog work, and I've been trained and actually helped train people train their dogs. I know what I'm doing with dogs, and we decided, okay, we need a bark collar on this. This is getting too much. The level is, we don't want it to get to a level, so let's keep it down. And they've kept it down with the bark collars and my direction. So yes, do they come to the fence and make noise? Yes. Do we live on a very busy street with a lot of people? Do we want them to make an announcement? Absolutely. Because for safety purposes, burglars and whatnot, all that thing that we felt safer when things were going on in Georgetown and cars were being broken into and houses and stuff. Our dogs will make noise that somebody's coming by, and hey, that's good. That's what dogs do. That's what they do. They make an announcement of their territory. Does it go beyond that? Absolutely not. And that's what Diesel does. He is kind of a bump on a log inside. He plays with our 2 dogs. He came into our home without incident with our 2 other dogs. No problem whatsoever. They're both females. They're both 4 years old. And he's a wonderful dog. He's a family member for us. And he's really helped our son specifically, who's had some diagnoses and so forth, which I've described in my letter. And he sleeps with him, and he sleeps with us, and he's a wonderful, loving dog. And I believe this on the bed. And this, I believe, is 100% an isolated situation that we will never, ever, ever, as responsible dog owners, let happen again. We have changed our fencing. We have changed things on our side, which we've taken pictures of that with their tarp up, they haven't been able to see. They don't know what's there, so we brought pictures to show that. The changes that we've made chicken wire up against the post and rail fence that we have that's 5 foot. We've put chicken wire on that so their noses actually can't stick out to the near that sidewalk area. So there's can't be any other possible incident. We've changed that just because of this incident, because we don't are responsible people and can maintain him in our environment with our children, with our friends that come and go with their dogs, and there's no problem whatsoever. I believe that as Knox was coming across the street, if you look at our property, this is his run, which the gate will now permanently be closed. They will not have access to the area that he jumped accidentally. They will not have access to that. There's a 5-foot wooden fence with a gate there. They won't go back there. And in case, again, a mistake happens, we now have placed more fencing above the chain link fencing that's there where he got over. We've put that up significantly higher, so if there is ever an accident where that gate accidentally gets left open, there's a second reinforcement so he can't get out. So I believe that we've done quite a bit. We didn't do things right away because he was in quarantine, and so he had to be with us, and we had to be supervising him, and we knew he couldn't get to where he could do anything to anybody. So we were trying to figure out what's the first thing to change, what's the first thing to help in terms of the fence. So we, did it bit by bit, and we kept with our word that we will do everything we can, and that's still a work in progress. In spring, we want to change, when the ground thaws, we want to put more fencing up in the front to make that all wood, just in case.
So we have, if you face our house, to the right of the house is the driveway, and then 50 feet to the other side of Rossio, to the opposite side of where the Rossi's house is. There's about, that side is a wood fence. It's 5 feet high, timber. Dogs can't get
Get
over it, out of it.
Through it.
It's six, I believe, six. It's five. We have 5-quarter planks. It's 6 sections high.
I have pictures of you.
We're going to do the same, build the same type fence on the left side where the dog got out. Once it warms up and the ground thaws, but we are able to close off that section. I had probably 3 years ago built a matching fence in the back that's wood, that's 5 feet high, that they can't get over, that has a gate on it, so that we could keep our kids from going over where all the dogs go to the bathroom. So that's closed now. And we've raised sections that were lower on all sections of fence I shouldn't say all sections, there is a section that we still have to raise, we have to get more. I've been using a heavy-duty chicken wire type. We've raised everything, most of it's 7 feet high, that impossible for him to get out. I mean, we have years of experience with dogs. I mean, we're responsible people. The letters that we made copies of to provide to you are from our vet, people that have watched our dogs when we've been out of town, that have gone into our house when we're not there. There has been 0 issues. My wife helps a friend's family out, and their 3-year-old daughter comes over 3 days a week, and which they're here
to say.
and it never, I mean, no problem leaving their child, no issues.
Okay.
It's an unfortunate incident that
Terrible.
we feel terrible for, and we've done enough that I can confidently say that he's not going to be able to get out.
Okay.
Do you guys want the pictures of anything that we've done?
If you could give them to our
Sure.
assistant, that would be terrific. All right, well, do you have any more questions, Doug or Gary?
Well, I do. Because we have dogs that are all around us where we are. And I'm getting a picture here of aggressive announcements as opposed to just a dog making an announcement. Ruff, 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 to make the announcement. Or a dog coming up to a fence, and if it's true, what has been said, that people are crossing the road so that they don't have to walk past, then to me, that gives me that picture of like an aggressive announcement.
Well, the part of the issue is that our fence is right, I mean, you have probably this amount of grass, and then it's a sidewalk. So that's why we've changed it to put the chicken wire that but they can't put any kind of nose or anything through it now.
I'm not questioning the preventative measures you're
Okay.
taking.
Okay.
But as far as the demeanor of the dog, it seems to be the demeanor of the dog towards Max, because I mean, it would seem to be that maybe people may be more afraid to walk past your house. Right?
I don't think people are afraid, I think it's
There's a
dogs are right
mix.
there.
There's a mix of people. There are people that cross the street at our house because our dogs, prior to us putting bark collars on them, our dogs would bark
Not aggressively.
non-aggressively. And I mean, they run up to the fence. Yeah, it's not.
We have a big yard, so they're coming
It's
running
not
from
a-
wherever,
I
and
mean,
then they
it's not
stop and bark.
by any means aggressive. I mean, there are people that cross at our house, and there are people that walk by
And talk to our dogs
and
with their dog. all the
talk,
time.
yeah, and pet our dogs. So
The question I would have is, let's say you're out walking Diesel,
Mhm.
and Gene is out with Max,
Mhm.
and the two dogs encounter each other.
I wouldn't
It se-
have them
it se-
encounter.
It seems that the dogs have an issue with each other, right?
I mean, like, you even have a tension between them because they live next door and they're two males and they don't want either one of them to take the territory, so to speak. But I don't let my dogs greet or interact in that sense. That's just not smart because you just never know what could happen. I don't let them interact or meet. And Diesel and Emma and all of my other dogs listen to me explicitly, and if I tell him no or leave it or wait, they will leave it and wait. They will stop. They are trained very, very well from me and from Joe. In that situation, if we had gotten to Diesel before that, if I was there or if Joe was there prior to the situation and we told him no, it wouldn't have happened.
So you didn't.
I guarantee it.
You didn't witness the initial
I did not.
attack,
I
and you
didn't.
didn't witness the initial.
No, I did. I was right there the whole time.
So you saw when Diesel jumped the fence?
I did not. I saw it was seconds after he got over the fence. I didn't know how he got over the fence. I didn't know how he got out. But after that, I was there the whole time. But I mean, as far as in an instance that dogs are walking, I mean, we are very respectful because we walk 3 dogs that we don't allow interactions.
It's just not smart.
If we do, it's with dogs that they know and that
Right.
we are 100% confident that they're friendly with.
Right.
But it's also, at the same time, it's different because they're outside of their yard.
Right.
So they're not, that's, for some of that, it's more of a protective, of the yard than anything. Outside of
But,
the
yeah.
fence, it's not, it's a different story. So,
They don't behave that
So-
way, is what he's saying, when they're outside of their home. It's not their territory, so they're fine because they're not protecting their area.
Now, I have a question because it's just, in 2 different letters, it was referred to differently. The rescue, one says a Great Dog Rescue, one says a Great Dane Rescue. Is it a Dane Rescue or just the dog rescue?
Oh, the Great Dog Rescue is the name of the company,
Oh, okay.
like the
it's the name
program,
of the nonprofit.
the nonprofit.
So how old was Diesel when you got him?
Diesel was 3.
3?
Mhm.
Okay, and he was in the rescue because,
He came up
He
from
was rescued from the south.
rescue from the south. People in the south don't like
does he have a
black
history
dogs.
of abuse or anything?
Nope.
That you know
He-
of?
He's a black dog, and there's this weird thing in the south of black dogs, and nobody wants them. And we don't have anything other than how he behaved in his transfer and in his rescue. He was nothing but docile and loving and willing, and like the kennel manager, I believe, talked about giving him an injection, and he did absolutely nothing. She drew his blood. He did absolutely nothing with a dog of that size. She said that was absolutely unheard of for her to be able to poke him with a needle twice, and he did nothing. She didn't have to restrain him, muzzle him, nothing. He just sat there like kind of a doofus.
The concern I have is enough pressure to shatter a bone and break another one, and then bite Max in the stomach when he got away from you, I believe, right?
Well, I'm gonna go with that's a difference of opinion on how things happened. Because in my, once I had him, I had him. I mean, I'm not a small person.
He didn't get away from you?
No, I'm not a small person. I don't, once I had a hold of his collar, he didn't go back. I mean, I don't know if there was a point where he let go and was trying to get on him again, and I don't know where it came from. Because once I had a hold of him and I got him dislodged from the scruff, that was it.
Being that this happened, is there some form of training or social training that you can engage in for the animal?
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, even to the point where I'll say rehabilitation, I mean, just for the use of the word, but when a dog attacks like that, that's a great concern to me.
Absolutely, we're totally
That's
willing to
her-
do that. Sure, and that's what I do, and that's why
Part of what she does.
I was qualified to take and be able to adopt. That we're a qualified family to be able to do that because of my background and what I'm able to do. I certainly, absolutely, if that's what is asked of us, we will certainly, go and redo some.
Yeah.
I think there's like an adult, they call it an adult, manners type of a thing. My vet runs it, and there's, in the area, you can take multiple places you can take and redo some training. Absolutely, we can certainly do that, if that helps.
The thing, okay, and the only other thing I would suggest is, I've seen dogs, with muzzles, that have been dogs that have attacked.
If that makes them feel better, if we're walking and we can put on they have lots of comfortable fabric ones, and if that makes them feel better, if I'm walking my dog, I will absolutely do that. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a lot of papers here, and these have added up, but I've got some that I just got tonight. I've got something about quarantine guidelines. So is Diesel under quarantine right now?
No.
No,
was
it
10
was,
10 days?
there was a couple different complaints, to the
Was he
animal.
under quarantine?
Yes.
During quarantine, he did 10-day quarantine.
10 days of quarantine. Yep, and he got
Okay,
passed
now-
out.
now
Dur-
to the- Okay, so the quarantine is over.
It's
Yes.
over. Yeah.
Now, here's, I don't have a date on this, and I don't have a date on Rossios letter, but I've got a letter from the Rossios that while they were out working, Diesel was in the backyard and jumped at the fence. Was that before you got notice of the quarantine?
No,
Nope.
so what,
It was while Diesel
what
was
the
quarantined?
the accusation
Yes,
during
but
the
that wasn't,
quarantine?
that didn't happen.
There was a couple accusations made during the quarantine that we didn't have control of our dog or whatever, which Detective Jones had reached out to us, the animal control officer reached out to us. There was some confusion on adult supervision. So on there, the quarantine has the adult needs to be supervised, and we have a fenced-in yard, so he's allowed to be in a fenced-in yard. Does
Not
not.
what I'm reading. It says the animal must be kept at home in an escape-proof solid wall building with a roof, approved by the animal inspector.
And the animal inspector on the phone
We-
approved
I don't-
what our fenced-in wall was, what our fenced-in property was. She told us on the
And
phone.
then the next thing, it says the animal may be leash walked under supervision of a responsible adult.
Yes.
So
We
one
did
of the
that.
complaints was that we had our dog out walking, which it says that
No,
we
but
are.
I mean, maybe there's confusion on
There
the
is,
There
farm.
is. There is.
there is confusion there,
Right.
and the animal control officer had told us that,
Okay.
as well as.
Well, no, thank you, that may be, we may need to call the police department back up for some clarity on that, but, one of the questions I'd had was how do you intend to move forward with the restraint of Diesel? You've shown some efforts that you've made. I thank you for that. But, I'm not a fencing expert, but I can tell you that I work at a farm. I put fencing up for horses, I put fencing up for pigs, for dogs, and for chickens. Chicken wire is called chicken wire for a reason. It's to keep back chickens. It's not gonna keep back a big dog.
Right, so that's why it's the
So-
secondary
That's why
reinforcement.
You need a, well,
The first
I think-
reinforcement is the
no,
is the
I
5-foot
guess-
gate.
It's something that we could do that gave us confidence to
Yeah.
keep him in in the lowest spaces that we had, including the section that he got out.
no, you're making an effort, and I appreciate that. So I guess that's about the end of my questions. I would perhaps like some clarity on the quarantine from the police department.
Of course.
And in terms of the accusations on the violations in the quarantine, I talked to the animal inspector on the phone after Officer Jones let me know that there was a concern about it. She said, yes, your dog does need to be, in terms of how it's read in the bulletproofs, yes, your dog needs to be leash walked in your property. So the way that it was interpreted was, you may walk your dog leashed, but by a responsible adult. So I interpreted that as you may walk your dog by a responsible adult, not as he has to be walked within your property on a leash, which is what she said she was gonna go back and fix and say that it does need to say that within your property, the dog needs to be on a leash with you. Okay, so that was the confusion with that. And the other time that Diesel, actually was not out, he was in our bedroom with our, other dog the day in which that accusation was made that Diesel barked at the fence. He was, up in our bedroom, and because we were meeting people for the first time, new friends, and we were meeting them, and it was quarantine, so he needed to be away from people. So he was actually locked upstairs, and it was our other dog that was out at that time, so it wasn't Diesel that did that.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. I appreciate that. If you
Thank you.
would kindly have a seat, I'm going to ask anyone in the audience if they would like to come up as well.
Okay, thank you.
I will once I get to the thing. Yeah, have a seat. there.
Okay, thank
So
you.
before I get back to the Rossios here, is there anyone in the audience from the public here that have any comments or questions? Please come forward and have a seat at this desk right here. And for the record, could you state your name and address, please?
Barbara Hover, 274 Middleton Road in Boxford.
Barbara, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you
do.
God?
I do.
Okay. And you, sir?
Mike McManus, live at 557 North Street.
Okay. Mike, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Barbara, if you could share what you'd like to tell us.
I'm Heather's mother, and once a week, at least, I go over on Tuesdays. I spend 3 to 4 hours there helping with the endless laundry and household things so Heather can do her job. She's a coach for AAU, so I help out in that way. Sometimes Heather's there, sometimes she's not. I go into the house. The 3 dogs come to greet me. 2 of them want their bone. Diesel could care less about the bone. All he wants to do is run and get a toy and give it to me. He is so sweet. Heather has these 3 children. They are active children. He never does anything in any way to show any anger or aggression. He is sweet beyond. And I walk into the house without her being there, and there's never any issue. I've never seen him do anything but just be, he is a very large dog, but anything but just be a very sweet animal. He is a large dog, and I do remember last summer, the neighbors have this chain link fence, and their dog was barking and racing up and down and barking, racing up and down. It was a Tuesday, and I ran out because I heard all this barking. When I went out there, I don't even remember whether it was Diesel or one of the other dogs. They were going at each other at the fence, and I said, oh my gosh. And the neighbor said, oh, they're just dogs. They're just doing that. They do it all the time. That's my only interaction with this person. I couldn't stand the noise of it. It was frightening. But their dog was the one that was making the noise, not the Settlemeyer's dog.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
For me, my wife and I have 4 kids in town, go to school in town, and that's how we met the Settlemeyers. Our kids are friends with their kids. So we've gotten close, and I don't know how many times I never thought once, I guess the couple incidences were the Settlemeyers were out of town and needed someone to feed the dogs and let the dogs out and run around. And the first time I went, I 3 dogs, I don't know what I'm walking into. None of them blinked an eye at me. I walked in, let them out, unlocked the door, fed them. I maybe spent, 30, 40 minutes there. I was with my 4 children. I have a son that thinks dogs are like horses, probably like most kids, and climbs on them and holds them. And so that particular instance, I was very comfortable. I'm not I have a dog. I'm not a huge dog person, but I was very comfortable with these 3 dogs, particularly Diesel, because he is a big dog. But I warmed up to him pretty quickly. Since then, prior to that, and then others, I've done it. My wife has gone over as well. Same. She actually wrote a letter. She couldn't be here tonight, but same type of feelings that I have as far as walking in there without them being there. When they are there, it's same thing. My kids, I have two little twins that typically stick together, and they love dogs, and they've hung all over that dog and has never blinked an eye at it. I've never once thought that my 4 children, when they're there, without my wife or I there, are ever in danger. In fact, Heather, we took in a rescue dog, about a year ago, and Heather's been very helpful for us as a family, kind of breaking us in and teaching us how to raise the dog and make him part of the family. So that's all I have to say, other than I've never seen anything from Diesel that would make me think I shouldn't allow my kids to be alone without me or my wife in that house, ever.
Okay.
And that's it. That's all I have to say.
I would like to thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that has, if you would please come up? And are you coming up also?
I'll wait, or
Should we come up together?
2 chairs, I don't wanna.
Please grab a seat and come on up. We'll try to expedite this. All right. Welcome and thanks for offering some testimony. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Gretchen Hover Moreski, 36 North Liberty Street in Middleton, Massachusetts.
Gretchen, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Great.
Lindsay McCardle. I live at 220 Merrimack Street, apartment 232 in Lawrence.
Great. Lindsay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth,
Yes.
so help me God?
Yes.
Lauren Kleiner, and I live at 150 Tenney Street in Georgetown.
Lauren, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Gretchen, let's start with you. What would you like to share this evening?
Thank you. One thing for your consideration, also being an animal lover, a dog owner, a cat owner, a horse owner. So, Mr. Chairman and Board, I'd like you to consider that Max is, I'm quite sure, a beautiful, lovely dog, and he is a German Shepherd. And Diesel is a lovely, gentle giant, and very protective of his territory. What I think it may be of interest to you is to consider that Diesel and Max live within a fence distance. And according to the American Kennel Society, German Shepherds are fabulous, curious, agile dogs who can become overprotective of their family and territory, as can a Great Dane, as can some other the larger breeds. And so I think all I would ask you to consider is that this is not a collie, this wasn't a pug, these were 2 male dogs of similar breed, intelligence, agility, and who have, in my understanding, been equally antagonistic to each other on each side of the fence. So I think that, and is that part of their nature? Is that part of being protective of their people and their family? Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. Lindsay?
So I known Heather for like 25 plus years, so we go way back, and I grew up in Boxford, but my daughter, Jayla, who's 3, goes over to Heather's house 3 times a week. She's been there for the last 8 months. And obviously, being a mother, any parent, safety is of the utmost concern for, for me and any other parent. But, and as a dog owner, we actually own, between my family, we have 4 pit bulls, so we are used, there's a lot of stuff that comes along with having that, and especially a breed like that. However, we're very good dog owners, and I believe, that has a lot to do with the way dogs are raised. And honestly, we've grown up with dogs. I've had everything from labs, every kind of mix you can think of. We've always had a dog. And I don't think I can say I've met a dog like Diesel before, except for their other dog, Nala, who are they're so docile and laid back, and I go over there a lot. When they're not home, I walk in, I go up to the fence, I drive up to the fence, 3 times a week, dropping off and picking up. They come over to me. They never bark at me. I don't know if it's because they know me, but from the beginning, they've never barked at me. They come over. I open the fence when they're there, no problems. And when they're there in the house and they're not home, I walk in the house, no problem. Diesel's the first of what he does, gets very excited, goes get a stuffed animal and brings it right to you. And my daughter, who, she's used to our dogs, who she can be quite, aggressive with, and they don't do a thing because they just don't. And she is the same way with Diesel, and Diesel sits there and he's so, she likes to give him hugs and likes to do everything. And I would never allow for that if the dog wasn't able to handle that. And I trust Heather with everything. She actually, believe it or not, our dogs, we keep them we keep them away from other dogs just because we don't want to even have anything happen. Even if they're good with other dogs, it doesn't matter. We just don't put them in that situation because they're pit bulls and people don't like them to begin with. So, but I actually had those 2 dogs in the car with me when I went and picked Jayla up one day, and I was like, nope, it's not coming out of the car. But Heather, Heather is very, very trained, and I trust her. And she actually is the only one, and we don't let those dogs play with them. She actually got them, and it was Diesel and Nala out, and she put Emma inside because she knows that Emma's not as good with other dogs, or may not be. So she actually was able to have those 4 dogs out in an open yard, and I couldn't and control them, and never let anything happen. And my other dog, Diesel, I have a dog, Diesel too, who's like a big dog, 80 pounds, maybe even a little bit more than that, but a very big pit bull. And she had the whole situation contained. Diesel is just so fun-loving, and he just really, it's almost the farthest thing from what I would ever think of this dog out of dangerous, is just really so far from it. And it's just, that's just my experience with him and my daughters, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
Lauren?
I can only really speak from what I've experienced when I've been with him, but every time I'm over there with my children, we've known Heather and Joe for a couple of years. My kids are close with their kids. I have 3 young girls, and when I go over with my kids, he's just very easygoing. He's very careful around my children. He doesn't, if they're near him, he stays very still until they're out of the way. He's just very, extremely laid back and just a mellow guy. And when I dog sit for them as well, and I'd only met him twice, I think, before I came over, so he really didn't know me. And I went into the house one night, and he just came up and was like, yeah, all right, let's go, and listened to everything I told him to do, and is respectful of my space. And I've watched him with the kids. I've watched the kids reach down his throat and grab a toy that he picked up off the floor that's theirs, it's not his. And he just, I worked at a vet for years, and I just don't get a bad vibe from him. He's just a good boy, and I've just never seen anything that would make me think that, he'd be a danger to people.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
At other hearings where they have a sign-in sheet, I don't know if it would make it any easier for Janet for the minutes to have it fixed.
Are you getting, recording everyone's name and address okay?
Enough.
Okay, gotcha. I know about that, yeah. Okay, so let's just do one last round. If I can get the Robsios to please come up and just any final comments that you have. And I'll do the same with the Settlemeyers.
I was under the impression that, we did not get the witness to come forward, because I was under the impression it was us and them. I did not realize they were gonna bring all these witnesses for their dog. Obviously, we didn't, but we had an eyewitness, and
Detective Jones interviewed the eyewitness.
yeah.
So
And when Joe says he was there all the time, he was not. He came in the middle of it, jumped out of his truck, he parked it at the end of the driveway. There's like a lot of holes in what they're saying all of a sudden. The other thing is, she had told me that that dog was abused, that they picked BBs out of it one day at the fence. So I'm just seeing a lot of holes in the story, and I'm wondering why we weren't told to ask the witness who, could have backed up some of what I said to come in it just feels a little grandstandish, like we were not aware that we were
I
supposed
actually
to
called
ask.
and spoke with Janet and asked, what the process was gonna be, and that's kind of what I was led to believe, that it was us and them, and I asked that question.
Well, if you, it's a public hearing, so anyone is welcome. And
I understand
if you weren't aware of that, then, we apologize for that. I know there's two sides to every story here.
Absolutely.
Correct.
At the end of the day, I look at it this way, there was an incident, okay? And the details are important, but the incident's more important to me, and I think to us as well.
Right.
We understand it's a big dog. I understand, I have a little dog, and I live in a neighborhood with a lot of little dogs. I don't know, everyone's in little dog happiness these days, including my own family. And every single dog, if you walk by their house, is extremely protective. They all have invisible fences. They're all small dogs, but you don't know that until you see the dog,
Right.
and it scares the heck out of you. Including my own dog, which I don't let out because I'm afraid he's so small the hawks will pick him up. But that's a different issue. That said, though, my dog is the same way with the neighbor's dog next door. If the two ever got mixed up, he's so small he'll just he'll pick a fight he can't finish. And I know that happens between dogs. I'm a little familiar with dogs only because my sister's a veterinarian, so I've spent some time with dogs. Dogs are very territorial and protective out there. I'm not discounting the fact that this happened to you. I'm not discounting the fact that you're scared and you're nervous and what's going to happen in the future, and now you have to always think 2, 3, 4 times ahead of time of what you're going to have to do out there.
Right.
Again, dogs are an interesting animal because sometimes families believe and think like I do that they are part of the family. So when I'm making a decision on what we want to do here tonight, I have to take into consideration what happened. We've got to take into consideration, is this habitual? I don't necessarily see a pattern of repeatedness of anything. Can it happen again? Yes, and I'm sure it will happen again if the same circumstances come up, right? And we need to find a way that this doesn't happen again. Is there anything else that you would like to say?
No.
Okay, I want to, go ahead.
Just that, we did have somebody that saw the whole
Yep,
thing
I'm
that I
gonna-
wish she
Yeah.
could have come because, it's more about not the dog, but what actually happened. So
I'd like to ask that maybe Detective Jones could read that into the record, that interview, or what was said, what he asked her, what her answers were. I'd like that to be part of it, because she was an eyewitness to this entire thing.
Yeah.
I believe that is in our paperwork.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is?
Oh,
Okay.
well, we haven't been privy to that. We haven't seen that.
So we have the investigative report in front of us here. So, thank you. I'm going to ask
Okay.
Settlemyers to
Thank
come
you.
up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Doug.
Do you have pictures of your dog's wounds? with you?
I think I might. I'm not sure what these are pictures of. Are these of the animal or these of the?
Of your dog, please.
Yep.
Just
Yes, I do.
Any picture for the record, because it's public record. And on an aside, with regard to the police report would not be released to either party until the conclusion of this investigation, because you sit in judgment, therefore, once this has been vetted, everybody's welcome to the report,
Gotcha.
based on the public review of the, of what we can release.
Further questions for Rob?
No, I just wanted to,
All right, as he's looking through those,
Yep.
If I can
Thank
have, thank you very much, and please again have a seat here. If I get the Settlemyers to come up, if there's anything, you don't have to, but if there's anything you'd like to say before.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yep.
In reference to Gina's comment about me saying that yes, the dog was abused, I didn't. I could have been talking over. Yeah, I could have been talking over, and I didn't actually hear a question. Was he abused or so forth? It is, yes, I did tell her absolutely 100% that we took things out of the surface of Diesel's skin when we first got him that looked like BB-like. And we kind of talked to some professionals to find out what could that possibly be. And they had said that, well, that comes from something where he'd been shot at. And we said, oh my God. So yes, absolutely, I did, and I apologize if I missed that, Gina. That yes, I did tell her that he had been shot at, and I don't know any incident about it. I don't have any information about who did that, when it happened, or anything, and was that a repetitive abuse or anything like that. But yes, I did miss that absolutely, and I apologize for that. That yes, I did take things out of his surface skin, and we came to an understanding from a third party that that would be because somebody would have to have shot at him, whether that means he's running loose in the woods or whether he's, at home. I don't know anything about that. But I do know that we did take that out. And again, I was not there in the situation in terms of holes in the story and so forth. But what I will say is that I am 100% responsible for what happened to Max. Whatever happened, our dog left our property. And that is a problem. And that will not happen again. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that does not happen again. And we are painfully sorry that Max got hurt and that this happened. And we are 100% liable for what Max went through, whether he bumped and fell and something happened to his leg or whatever happened is because our dog left the property. And that cannot happen and that will not happen again.
So we cannot compel you to cover the costs as a board. I mean, that's
Okay.
between you and the owner. And if they're not satisfied with that, they can civilly, try to find some resort for that.
Okay. We believe that's the right thing to do as a neighbor, that we should do that.
I think that that's the least we should do, right?
Right.
And I'm glad to hear that you guys are open to do that.
Absolutely.
And hopefully to do that. So, okay, I just have a few questions for Detective Jones.
Okay.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Detective Jones, if you could just share what you reported as from the witness, just to help us get a sense of what.
I did put in my report everything she had said regarding, it's pretty much what Mrs. Rossio had alluded to, the fact that she was walking up the sidewalk. If you're going northbound on North Street, she was on the left-hand side of the road. Their properties are on the right-hand side, and as she was walking up that sidewalk, she was approaching the witness, this woman, walking her dog, and she felt that, okay, maybe I'll just stop to cross the street at this point, to maybe not encounter that dog or whatnot. So as she did that, she crossed in front of the Settlemeyer's home and was making it towards their driveway area, and that's when Settlemeyer's dog got loose. So this woman saw the whole thing happen. She went over to assist. I could actually read exactly what she had said if you'd like me to read from the report what she had said.
I'm comfortable with that. It's up to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Any questions from you guys for Detective Jones?
No, I don't have any from, I mean, there hasn't been any other complaints to the police about?
I printed out I did a search of all the calls to the Settlemeyer's property regarding any calls. And I have a printed out list. It's in this folder. And there is nothing that has been reported to this department regarding any of their dogs, especially this type of incident. There was, I believe, one, let's see, where is it? Back here on June 6th of 2013. This is prior to them acquiring Diesel. This is regarding one of their other dogs. Their dog just was not currently licensed at the time. That was it.
Okay.
So nothing to. That's the only animal call we had for the house.
Did you talk to the surrounding neighbors?
I did not talk to any surrounding neighbors. I basically talked to the parties involved and the witness, and everything that was told to me is in my report. As far as what one party had said, another party had said, there were maybe some conflicting stories as far as how many times the dog got free from Mr. Settlemeyer or not. So I put according to this witness and this witness, this is what was said. So just basically put all the facts. Maybe a little bit contradictory, but nothing egregious or outrageous.
All right. Gary, your
Well,
question?
I've got some questions, and it goes back, it's mostly clarity of what we have, so I don't know if Officer Jones wants to handle it, or if Chief Cudmore, or both of them wanna
I'll jump in if you need me, sure.
wanna speak. I'll just say this, under the dangerous, you gave us, I think, basically, you said there was 5 scenarios, I think.
7,
Kinda,
yeah.
okay, but I don't think this is at the point where the dog needs to be euthanized, for my personal opinion. I'd like to go actually with the lesser of the nuisance, but I don't know what, my question is with that is what authority do we have? Because what I would like to see is, I'd like to see a proper fenced-in area for the dogs. And I'd like that fenced-in area to be inspected by, be it the health inspector or the building inspector. And so that we, or I, could feel comfortable. And I don't know if the nuisance would give us the authority to do that. It sounded like the lighter part of the dangerous might give us that authority.
What I'll do is I'll read chapter 140, section 157, subsection B. And it says, and I state, if the hearing authority deems a dog a nuisance dog, the hearing authority may further order that the dog owner or keeper of the dog take remedial action of the nuisance behavior. So,
we're
this
putting it
board,
on the owner.
well, you as the authority, if you've deemed the dog a nuisance, you can attempt remediation with these folks and try to deal with
Okay.
the nuisance of the animal. Now, where the authority deems a dog a dangerous dog, you can order one or more of the following, and that's when it gets very detailed with regard to kenneling, with regard to tethering. It can be muzzled, and then that will be reaffirmed by a court of law too, because the animal owner actually has right of appeal, and you would have to file a court order in order for this to happen in the event these folks do not comply. That's when it becomes a court order. If they're amenable to remediation and to try and provide a better kenneling for the animal, that's satisfactory to you, your inspection authorities, and it's affirmed by animal inspection as well as animal control, and we solve the problem, we get there. If something else happens, we're back here again.
Okay, thank you. 'Cause I mean, I am concerned because of the fact, I think there's an admittance here of the dog coming at the fence, and the Settlemeyers are trying to put wire up to withhold the dog from, perhaps in the sidewalk area. So I have concerns about that, and I think that the fence needs to be proper, but so perhaps with what you just read, I guess the nuisance, we could work with the folks to get remedial action.
As the authority, yes, you could.
So would we need a motion to that sort at some point? I mean, I'm just,
I'm gonna, for conversation here, I am
Okay,
gonna
yeah.
see if someone will move this forward to deem Diesel the Great Dane, owned by the Settlemeyers of 67 North Street, a nuisance dog under MGL Chapter 140, Section 157. If I could get someone to move that, and then we can, have a
I'll
further
move
discussion.
that for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, need a
I'll
second?
second for the purpose of discussion.
Okay,
My concern is we have 2 families that we're all neighbors here in this small town. But the issue isn't about really the neighbors. The issue is that we have 2 dogs that don't like each other. And one dog has attacked another dog. I can see from the pictures here that Max's leg has several pins in it, and I assume that you said there was a rod there too, right?
There's a rod going down and the pin's going through, yes.
And also that the Rossios are concerned for their safety. I've had dogs, and we had a dog that bit my son, and I got rid of the dog. I just brought it back. I have him euthanized. I don't have any tolerance for biting dogs. I have to put that up front. However, I don't know how long it'll take for the Rossavs to feel safe. And I would really expect, I'd like to see the dog have a muzzle. And if he's outside of his fence, or outside of his yard, because he's attacked an animal. And it looks like a pretty severe attack. I don't want to really exacerbate the issue with the settlements. But the issue isn't whether or not the dog is friendly around people. It isn't even necessarily, you know, I don't know how the dog is around dogs that he doesn't know. I understand about dogs protecting the area and making announcements, but still to me, from what I've heard from everybody, is that it sounds to me like it's an aggressive move and an aggressive announcement, more than a dog just barking. So, this is a difficult, I don't think the dog should be euthanized, but I think the dog should remain in his yard, and that if he's out in the street, he should have a muzzle. Now, the Settlemeyers have voluntarily said that they would do that, if that would help the situation. But that's where I am. Dogs and all pets are parts of families, so I would like to see the dog get some socialized training. And, or I would, but that's where I am with this. I'm very concerned because we have a woman that was knocked over, and according to the police report, she was knocked over. And that the dog had 2 attacks on the Rossavs dog. So I just think rehabilitative training, socialization, and then extra protection for people and other animals while the dog is out. I mean, I don't want to give him a life sentence, but the dog should be able to go out and walk and, you know, on a leash. And that's where I am with that.
Okay, so if this motion carries, then we can order that. And I think, you know, as a furtherance to this hearing, we've got to work with the animal control officer and chief to come up with a set of proper conditions in order to ameliorate the cause of the nuisance behavior and do anything we can to help make sure that this doesn't happen again. That includes, you know, inspecting the fence, ordering conditions on those fence, and working between both parties. You guys are going to be neighbors for a long time, I'm sure, and we want to help make sure that us as a governing body here with the police and animal control here can help make sure that we can provide you at least what we would consider, and hopefully you, as an acceptable remediation to this from happening again.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if in fact that will be our role in this, I would acquiesce with what Mr. Fowler said, in that the order of conditions be clear and concise, only because we will not have definitive ruling on what a deemed appropriate fence is, what a deemed appropriate restraint is. And in that regard, I hope if we leave here tonight that we have that in place for both families so that they know the guidelines. Like I say, Georgetown's very populated with dogs. There's a reason why we have this animal control program, and we do respond. The number one call that the Georgetown Police responds to is animal calls for service, and it's the least funded. So, you know, we were able to take a program and at least be able to help our residents because it's our jobs. That's a charge that we were given back in 2006, and I'll gladly take that. When we get to this point, though, we need clarity with regard to that order, whether it be permanent fencing, what that fencing shall include, so that we're not having officers respond with no guideline. There needs to be clear and concise measures in that order so that my officers can do their job, especially Detective Jones as the certified animal control officer. And one more component, our animal inspection department, it falls under the Board of Health. that's another part-time position, so we wanna make sure that we levy that authority from that inspection office to this order too, so that we have some backup. That's all I ask.
To that, if I may. Sure. Perhaps what we could do is vote down that motion. Give some temporary orders of muzzlement and restraint, and extend the hearing to our next scheduled meeting of March 14th. But then perhaps the police department could work and somebody could come back with us, cause I don't know that I've got the type to say at this point that we need a fence 4 feet high or 6 feet high. That
Well,
it need be chain link, or it need be.
I agree,
you know,
and I think.
So would extending the hearing with some orders now give time perhaps to get more definitive, or do you think we should?
Well, I will do anything to help mediate this problem, that's my job, no doubt. I'm here full-time, and we will do that. I just wanna make sure that the people involved are satisfied with where we go, so that they don't leave with any sense of emptiness that we did not resolve something tonight.
Agreed.
And then, most important, the impact of the order of conditions by way of animal inspection and potential inspection of this fence or whatever, this, you know, me personally, I've never seen this animal, so I don't have an opinion like you either. I don't know what a Great Dane's capable. I'm like Phil, the love of the little dog, so, I don't know what the confinement needs to be. We don't know the property line. You know, there's a lot of things in there. I just don't want to be unknown where these folks are calling the police department at various times during the day, and I'm sending 34 different people down there, and we're getting right back to where we
So
were.
that's why I'm thinking perhaps we extend the hearing and we sort of put it more as the dog remains restrained, is walked with a muzzle, and we put it perhaps on the Settlemeyers as to what their plan is to work with the police, and if they can't work with the Rossios, at least you could be an in-between.
Yeah, we need some
type
permanency
thing.
on
Yes, I
the fencing
agree,
and like,
I
so that we
don't
don't.
think we're at the point to get that here tonight, so.
So, I guess from a process standpoint, Mike, just help me understand this. So as the language says that they may further order, and that's how I'm looking at this. We are gonna deem this a nuisance dog tonight, and we're gonna further order what those orders of conditions are at a future time. That's, I don't think we're going to I don't think we're going to change, the actual motion itself. I'd like to close the hearing and actually work toward the fixing.
Right, I mean, the language is, the hearing authority may further order that the owner or keeper of the dog take remedial action
Right.
to cease the nuisance behavior. So it's broad for a reason. I think there's a lot of discretion in the language for a reason to maybe deal with a dog at that level and people at that
I
level.
need you to do some homework and to come to us with, in working with animal control and health to, you know, give us the recommendations from your perspective. We'll share our recommendations on what we want as a governing board here to make sure that we're confident as well.
Well, I'll meet with
the
both
homework.
parties. I'll have my people, Lieutenant Hatch has been involved in helping the Rossios with some clarity on the procedure as well. We'll meet with both families. If we go into March, there'll be some definitive planning on both sides with regard to permanency of fencing and restraint of the animal. And then I would leave it to their testimony if they're satisfied with that versus what we would think individually.
Agree.
My question, Phil, is to defer the order. If we vote the motion, I mean, I just voted that the dog is a nuisance, was the motion, as you read it.
That's right.
So when do we, as a board, defer the order? Is that here tonight, or is that, I mean, we need to do that, I would think, in some type of a public.
I mean, it's, time is of the essence. There is no date. It's tomorrow. We need it now at the moment. So whenever we can get together, the 29th is our next meeting. If it's possible for all parties to have met, that's going to be some time constraints.
We'll try to facilitate it, as long as we get some cooperation from both sides.
You-
It's a little unusual to do it this way, but we'll do it because I think that's what we need to do. We have the resources to help. I want to help the residents, I want to help the board, so we'll certainly take a leadership role in that and do it. So long as we can close the chapter of this book at some point and know where everybody stands, and people at least be satisfied. Dog issues are very, very passionate, from our perspective. What you saw tonight is what we deal with every day with animals in Georgetown. It's not just this neighborhood, so we're familiar with it. we're used to dealing with it, and we'll do the best we can to help.
Well, I'm pleased that, I just want to make a note to the Settlemeyers. I'm very pleased that, you know, they're stepping up to the level that they are. They've been agreeable to everything, so I really appreciate that, because it could have made the hearing a lot harder. But, I do think that they'll be ready to do whatever they need to do to constrain Diesel.
And I would caution the parties involved, the civil aspect of this, there's clear delineation with regard to authority with animal control, animal inspection, and the civil aspect of this case. So, my folks, we will do what we can on the enforcement and the control side, and then if we have to acquiesce on the inspection and the civil side, we'll guide everybody so that when we come, maybe we can have some closure at the next hearing,
Right.
or the continuation of the hearing, I should say.
Right. And I'd like to assure the Russos that we'll do everything we can so that they have a feeling of safety again.
It's important.
Okay, well then I'd like to call the question to a vote then. All those in favor of the motion set forth, say aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so,
Well, here's what,
We-
want me to explain my nay?
yeah,
As I said, I felt that we've got nothing definitive going out of here, and and we as a board, things tend to just sort of go away, and that's my fear. You know, I mentioned continuing the hearing to March 14th. You just mentioned February 29th, we have a meeting. It says here March 14th. I'm unavailable on the 29th. Many times I am the one who makes the quorum here. I don't know where you and David are, but, you know, I made some plans and I planned them around our scheduled meetings. So that's sort of why I just voted nay. I would suggest that,
Could we make a motion to
continue the
just
hearing.
continue the hearing until,
but I think we need to put some restraints on the dog.
well, I mean, Mike?
You can't put restraints on the dog until you declare it dangerous. You have no authority.
Right.
And if this motion stands, we're done.
We're done.
Just continued the hearing.
Well, you didn't, you
We
voted.
made the motion.
No, we could make
said
another,
there was no
another
finding.
motion to call the dog a dangerous. The motion was to call the dog a nuisance. Somebody else could now motion to call the dog dangerous, I would believe.
Yeah, somebody,
Okay. So that we can continue the hearing. And we could do that at the next hearing.
Well,
What we said was we're not ready to call the dog a nuisance at this date.
then continue the hearing. Don't,
That's what I said.
okay, well, I don't think we're gonna get anything else accomplished tonight.
Well, I mean, the Settlemeyers have said that they'll do whatever they need to do.
So
I'm
what's
sure
our
that
charge
they'll-
moving? Are we forward? Are we gonna work with?
Nope, we're not gonna do anything until we continue this and determine what our, if we're gonna deem the dog a nuisance or a danger. So we haven't done either. We haven't done anything tonight other than not, deem it a nuisance, so,
I think you better rescind your vote,
I know.
because now you only have one option. Declare it a dangerous dog, or not.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I move, Mr. Chairman, that we rescind our vote of not declaring the dog a nuisance, and thus to, extend this, hearing to March 14th.
I need a second on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna have to do that then.
And then, well, can we ask the police to work with both the parties?
If they're willing to work with us,
If they-
Mr. Chairman, we will do anything to help our residents, and we will do anything to help the board to bring some closure. And, you know, cooperation is voluntary, and if folks wanna try to make this, better, then we'll certainly facilitate. we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so we can do that for everybody involved. Just for clarity, cooperation is voluntary, and, you know, there's no pie-in-the-sky promises here. We'll look at it. We can make some recommendations as pet owners, as the police, work with the building inspection department, the animal inspection department, and maybe come to some clarity for you, as well as the victims in this, and as well as the Settamoys,
Okay.
if that's what you want.
So,
Take that
just
leadership
so
role.
you're clear, this is going to be continued. And personally, I tried to move this forward tonight, so we could just get into the orders as opposed to just working, because I want to get our orders done first. But my board members would like to continue it until the March
Well, March 14th was the
14th.
demotion.
March 14th.
And what we'll do, so that it's a level playing field, we will meet at the police department. Both families or representatives, whoever they want to bring with my staff, will begin the process, and then I'm sure there'll be some debate and some bargaining. We'll try to get at least something that's palatable to bring forward. And maybe we can check some boxes on agreement, and then we can vet out at the hearing level what may or may not be able to be done.
If I may?
Sure.
If perhaps you could get, for me, Chief, just who best to look at the type of fencing or restraints that we need,
Absolutely.
be it the building inspector, animal health inspector, whatever.
I have faith in these
Title
people
is.
that we can sit
Thank
down
you.
in a humane way and deal with it, and
And-
maybe we can have some closure on the 14th.
And I just want the Settlemeyers to know really what it is. It's on you folks now, really. I mean, it's extended. We could go to the dangerous if you're not working with us.
I think we've shown that we're willing to work, so it's not gonna change.
Okay.
All right,
This
sir.
hearing is
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
closed for this evening and continue on March 14th.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Chief, while you're here, I have something for you.
So, Heather, we'll be in touch. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, just want to say. Oh, great, thank you very much. And Mr. Fox, we'll get you all the information you need. I know
I'm
what you
sure,
need.
I'm
I
sure.
know what you
Well, I'll be talking with you.
I didn't look at it in that vein.
need. How you doing? Attaboy.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Bye now.
Thank you. Okay, so, I've got some representatives here from, Little Hill for snow removal. Mr. Ellison and anyone else that you have that would like to come forward? Let's get you guys up next on this.
Yeah, I was gonna stick them in this
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
folder so they're all together.
Just give it a second while these guys all. Sure.
I'm not getting a dog, Phil.
Don't come near my property. I don't want my dog near you. Okay, so we have a couple gentlemen here representing the Little Hill Condominium Association. For the record, if you guys would state your name and the address.
Sure, it's James Ellison, 11 Little Hill Lane.
All right.
Steve Sadler, 7 Hillside Drive.
Okay, all right. What do you guys want to get out of this evening?
Sure. So if you recall, I believe it was in December, we came in initial discussions with the board about, potentially having the town provide snow removal services to the development. And we discussed the stipulations that were in the original permit, as well as the town's ability to provide snow removal services to private roads in general. I think we discussed there was a general prohibition on the towns providing snow removal services to private roads that were open to the public unless there was a specific ballot measure passed. So we've kind of gone back And, you know, you guys provided us a listing of streets in the town, and they were identified as either owned by the town, unaccepted, or private. So I think one is we wanted clarification of what is the unaccepted status and what is the private status, and does the town provide snowmobile services to any of those streets currently?
Gotcha. Okay, so full disclosure here, I live in Little's Hill. I am part of the condominium association. I think we budgeted about $16,000 for snow plowing this year, divided by about 45 houses is about $365 per house, give or take a few bucks. So any financial gain that I would have would be annually about $365. So I just want to make sure that we're disclosing that. So let's start from some of the questions that you have. Let's take one at a time.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I guess going to the street listing that was that you guys provided at the past meeting, as you know, we would interested in understanding the status of unaccepted roads. Are those roads that the town owns currently, or that they plan on owning in the future, and kind of what would be the process there? And does the town currently provide? So I guess that's the first question.
Okay. Mike, maybe you can kind of share with these gentlemen the definitions of what these terms mean.
Honestly, I'd like to defer to the highway surveyor.
All right, Pete, could I ask you to come on up?
I'm not here for this. I'm here for, deficit spending. I asked Mike earlier today if I had to come here for this, and he said no. So I'm not prepared for this.
Okay, so no one can answer whether or not that what what the terminology actually means in terms of our roads. Okay.
I can tell you what I think an unaccepted road is a road that could be accepted. You know, a private road's a private road, and it's never planned to be accepted. An accepted road is a road that's been voted at town meeting, and it's accepted, and it meets all the standards through the planning board. The planning board's never been invited to a meeting to talk about Little's Hill.
Could I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think perhaps on this to go forward, we need to meet jointly with the planning board to get a better understanding of the layout of Little's Hill, what was the intention, why it isn't an accepted street. We've got other areas in town of this such. And I did ask for some information from that, but the town planner, in resignation and not here no more, I didn't get the answers that I was looking for, but I really feel that a joint meeting of the planning board and this board would be of much help to both parties going forward.
Okay, so gentlemen, we've given you some broad definitions of what these are. These are not the bylaw definitions of what those streets are. I guess the question that you guys have asked in the past is, are we currently plowing any streets that are considered private roads in Georgetown? I guess that's a question for our and the answer is no. So today, we're not plowing any private streets.
But if there was an emergency, we would plow that road.
Which-
We wouldn't plow the whole road. We would plow so the vehicles, or, if the fire department had to get to a house, we would plow to get to that house. We do it for a public, private, unaccepted. We would plow the driveway, we would shovel the walkway if it would make it easier for the, if there was a medical aid to get the person out of the house.
Gotcha, okay.
And we've done that in the past.
As a follow-up to that, can I ask, does the town currently plow any unaccepted roads?
Yes.
Okay, and so if the town, in kind of layman's definitions, accepting the road is the town taking ownership of that road, is that a fair assessment?
I would say it's intended that at some point we would take.
No, I'm sorry, so the town, if the road has been accepted, the town has, an ownership and they own that road.
Yes.
And if the town, so alternatively, as town, if the road has not been accepted, it's unaccepted, the town does not own that road, is that fair to say also?
Yes.
Okay, so the town is currently plowing roads that they do not own, that have this unaccepted status, is that also fair to say?
But it's not a private road. It's a
But
road that could be accepted by the town.
But the town does not own the road?
No.
Thank you.
If I could speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
And the
many
planning
times.
board's the department that accepts the roads.
Well, the actually town meeting accepts the roads, correct?
The planning board, you know, has to go through all the paperwork.
Agreed
to get the road
there.
accepted.
But, and then it gets put forward, and it would get put forward and passed by the town planner. On our warrant, we'd have a warrant article to accept certain streets. I don't think we've got any of those this year. But I mean, and sometimes, unfortunate, and I don't know why, it can sometimes take many years to get that to an acceptable town warrant. There could sometimes be one owner holding up the whole process, and so, but I do believe that the intent is that sometime the town is going to be accepting those roads.
Right.
Could be there's some that have been out there for 30 years, I don't know.
I'm not sure how else I can help you this evening. I think some of this is gonna have to go back to planning to make sure that the bylaw definitions are clear for you guys. I don't know the mechanics behind a decision that's being made to plow an unaccepted road. Do we get we don't get chapter 90 funds from unaccepted roads?
No, and we don't get chapter 90 money to plow the roads either. You know, the chapter 90 money is to repair roads.
Just to repair roads, okay. So I don't know what sets off, you know, someone's in the process of building a road for a development, their house is built on it, and at some point we start plowing on it. Is there some mechanism that drives that, or?
Like, for instance, the subdivision off of Lisa Lane, we don't plow that. It's up to the contractor to plow that. When they're done, it's to their best interest to get it accepted by the town. There's some unaccepted roads that we plow that the developer has passed away, and, you know, somebody needs to plow the road. So until that road gets accepted, you know, we plow the road and it could get accepted. I mean, isn't it in the deed that says Little's Hill will plow their road, maintain their road forever?
Yeah.
It's to something that effect, it's deeded.
Deer
that
Run
it
is
would
another
be-
private road, we don't plow.
Yeah.
You know, if we plow Little's Hill, are we gonna be plowing the condo association down off of North Street, the condos down off of Central Street?
Well, I'll make a
Just
distinction
for the-
between Little Hill and those, because Little Hill is open to the public, where those associations are not.
Is it open to the public or is it an easement?
No, it's open to the public.
It's an easement.
It's an easement giving the public access to the roads,
Same thing.
and there's no
Right.
distinction there,
Well, to the soccer field and the conservation land.
Yeah, but
which
it's-
are all over the
It's
development.
all,
I know, there's 4 parcels.
Can I
yeah.
ask, do you wanna proceed with a joint meeting with the planning?
Yes, we would like to. You know, our position is pretty simple. It's, you know, the planning board 20 years ago, or 18 years ago, made some agreement with the developer regarding the, 45 homes that were gonna be built in Georgetown. That developer is long gone. He doesn't live in Georgetown. Now we're left with 45 Georgetown residents who are members of the community, they pay full taxes, and they're just requesting snow removal services for development.
I agree, but it's a private road. I'd also like,
That's open to the
I
public.
may also like an attorney there, because I'd like to know if there's any liabilities if we were to plow a private road. Well, also, what would be the liabilities? Mike did give us some information on this, and I believe from the information he gave us, if at some point we decide it, we've got to do all private roads, I believe, from the information that Mike gave me. Now, that might have been because they went at it in a different way, I'm not sure.
So just
And
to
we may
follow-
not even have any authority to allow this legally, so.
So just to follow up on that, though, one of the reasons why we're here tonight was that was one of the questions that we, you know, is it gonna be a financial burden on the town if we go through a citizen's petition and it does pass on the ballot? What's the impact to the town? So we're
That's why-
cognizant about that, and I think that's why we came in to
That's
hopefully get some answers on what the definitions were.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really not trying to say, guess
Sure.
what? You know,
And I-
can't do it again, that's why I said, if we need to proceed with a joint
Sure.
meeting so that we all better understand it, I think that's the way to go, but I don't know what the rest of the board feels, that's my feeling.
Well, it's certainly.
Could I respond, because Gary, if that passes, as we wouldn't be required to plow all private roads.
If what passes?
If the town meeting adopts that section of the chapter.
Okay, that's what you gave me on a place down to Cape, I believe.
40C.
You gave us some-
Yes, we're not required to plow all private roads. We'd be required to plow all private roads that are public ways.
Okay.
And the selectmen can further put stipulations or criteria on those private roads with public ways on. For instance, they could say, must have X number of year-round residents on them. Or, you know, something else, but it has to be quantifiable. You can't say, well, because it's going, and the other, the town meeting has to pass funds for the plowing of the road. It has to be funded.
Is it town meeting or election?
Town meeting, it has to be included in your budget.
No, but I mean, is it voted on at town meeting or election? To plow private roads?
My understanding is a valid question, the chapter 40 is a
Whether
valid
you
question.
plow or not, but one of the conditions is it has to be funded. And the only way we fund it is through town meeting and the budget. So even if it passed, unless we pre-funded the number of roads we might do, it would be the following budget year that we actually might have additional funding to do it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, so, to that point, that was the other question too that we had asked about. If we can get it to be plowed, would that allow us eligibility for additional Chapter 90 funding? Because obviously, you know, we don't want to put the town in a financial position where it's just increasing the cost to maintain the town, and you're not really getting a whole lot more, right, out of it,
Somewhere I
so.
think
So the town doesn't receive Chapter 90 funds for plowing, just for repairing the road, according
Oh,
to
only
the highway
for
surveyor.
repair.
So there would be an additional cost to that,
Okay.
to do that. So are you, I just want to make sure that the warrant is still open. I think it closes on the 22nd.
They're on the ballot schedule, not the warrant schedule.
So they got everything they need, they just need, what still has to happen for them to get a ballot question?
Jan has given you the deadlines, hasn't
We
she?
need 200 signatures by 6 weeks before May, so the end of March, I think, is the date. So,
Is it 200 signatures or
Yes.
20%, whatever's less or larger?
I think it's whatever's
the lesser of.
less,
Yeah.
so it would be 200.
And, you know, I will say, my point with the whole unaccepted versus accepted roads, right? So as we discussed earlier, if a road is unaccepted, the town doesn't own it, and they're providing snow removal services for it. So my position, or, you know, the association's position is that we are similarly situated to those roads, where the unaccepted roads, you know, are receiving services, they're not owned by the town. I think we're in a private road that is open to the public, that is also not receiving services from the town. So I believe we're similarly situated, so it's not just an issue that's limited to Little's Hill, it's also to the 21 unaccepted roads that were on the street list.
Well, it's similar in the technical fact, but the legal fact, or the permit fact is that it was never intended to be a public road, and never intended to be serviced by the town. And when we all purchased our properties up there, I know it was very clear that, to me, when I purchased my property, that this was never going to be a town road. So maybe it falls in that category, and similar to unaccepted roads. But this is spelled out clearly, the intent behind the development. So, I mean, we can't, I mean, it's something we've just gotta deal with, right? And I know that the association's trying, and I say we because I'm on the board. I'm trying to stay some impartial here. I have a small financial gain, but I prefer either way, to be honest with you.
You know, and I don't disagree with you. You know, the
Yeah.
planning permit is very clear, but you know, as I previously discussed, you know, there was a developer that was here 20 years ago. He's not a Georgetown resident, and we're sitting here. We have 45 homeowners who live there with families who are active members of the community, and we're coming to the town to request town services that every other member of the town gets, and that we pay taxes for.
We just have a difference of opinion, because all of the 45 families that purchased homes in the Little's Hill development did so with their eyes wide open, knowing that they were signing and agreeing to the covenants that run with that land and that development. And that was for the perpetually private road, meaning indefinite period of time. And there were other issues there were 2 existing lots that were up there that are benefiting from services. They covered that also in the covenants that run with the land. So I understand where you're coming from. But I also understand that the town, through the planning board and their wisdom or whatever, the way the developer was able to get that whole 45 unit development done was to agree to the terms that the roads were perpetually private. And there would be other issues that I would come up with, like, well, what happens if a piece of the road comes up during the plowing? Who repairs that? I mean, what happens? Would you expect that the town would then have the sidewalk machine go through? So how many more people would that mean that the highway department would need to employ? And how much more would that mean? I don't know how much it costs to do the plowing, you know, per square foot or whatever, or per linear foot. I have no idea. I just know that the unaccepted roads don't have these covenants on them, as far as I'm aware. And
No, I don't disagree with that, but you know, the fact is they're still unaccepted, and that the town.
oh no, I understand your point, but we have a disagreement on.
No, I agree. I agree with everything you said about the permit. I agree the permit is very clear. The language is clear, and I think you know our position is that a developer did make a deal with the planning board 20 years ago, and we'd like to modify that deal.
Yeah, I think you would have to do that through the planning board.
Okay, so, in my shoes, I would tell you that, you know, go down the path that you're heading. Don't wait for us. I mean, obviously, we're not quite getting you all the information that you're looking for, and some of it you'll never get. Some of it you'll get some specific answers to it. I can't tell you, you know, the status of every single street, because we're not gonna go back and look at every single deed. That would be, it would just be impractical from a cost standpoint. However, if you do decide to get on the path with the ballot initiative, I would do that. I'd also work with our town administrator to get a sense of, from a budget standpoint, what does that mean for you know, your particular road, Little's Hill, and Mike might be able to help us understand what it would mean for the rest of the town if we were to plow private roads that have public ways on them. I can try to ask the planning board to come to our meeting on March 14th.
How else would we request a meeting with the planning board? Is that?
Mike, would you request that to the planning board?
Well, they can ask to be put on their agenda.
They have monthly meetings.
Yeah, you might want. Yeah, so let me think about this. It might be worth it might be worthwhile to be put on their agenda and have us attend that.
Because I don't think that we can undo what the planning board does. The planning board is more of a land use and management board. And they're the ones that established these stipulations, just as they did on Jefferson Court. So Jefferson Court shall permanently be a private way.
Mike, will you let us know when their next scheduled meeting is that they have, and see if we can get on that?
Yeah, they're the
schedule?
24th and the
Second and
5th.
fourth Wednesday.
March 5th. I know from dealing with the absence of Howard, that both meetings their agendas are pretty full.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a legal counsel question than a planning board question, because the planning board is gonna have to go to legal counsel and get it an answer because none of the planning board members now were made any decisions on this 20 years ago. I saw the names on the list. I don't even know if most of them still live in town.
I was trying to figure out who they were.
Well, okay, well, we'll ask Janet, have her explain
Yeah,
it
do you
then.
know who they are? I couldn't read them.
Well, I think there's some elements you might want to get some clarification from the planning board on, and that's maybe just the streets themselves, how we account for and label a street. One is at one point, do unaccepted streets get turned over to be plowed? Who makes that decision? Do they have any input in that? I mean, there's probably some value in trying to get on their agenda. When you get on their agenda, we'll put ourselves on that agenda as well. I think that whether we have a formal meeting or we attend.
Question to procedure.
Go ahead.
About the procedure. What's unusual a little bit about this is, as it's a ballot question. And so usually the finance and advisory doesn't advise on that, right, correct? On questions, they advise on warrant articles?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
So we would need.
I'm just thinking about the town. I mean, typically, we at least have some type of, how's this gonna affect the town and that, and somebody usually speaks to that. Even if we put if we put a override question on it, we've got some speaking to that. Usually there's one side versus the other. So would the planning board or somebody write, who would write, if you vote yes on this, this means such and such and such and such?
Where it's a citizen's petition, essentially, no,
So you don't address that one way or the other?
It has to be on the ballot.
Agreed,
No
it has to be on the
question. Yeah.
ballot, but can there
But
be something on the ballot that addresses, if you vote yes, this means this, if you vote no, this means?
I don't think so.
It has to be on the ballot if it makes it through town meeting.
No.
No?
If they get 200 certified signatures, it has to be on the ballot.
So what we talk about in town meeting is.
You're not even gonna discuss it.
Well, yes, you do, because we don't have 40C.
You're
The town hasn't-
adopting it by the ballot question.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
That's the law.
I think I've read different.
This is a very different situation.
Just one more question, if I may. So just to go back to the chapter 90, I understand that now it's for the maintenance. Does that apply to unaccepted roads? To say, to your point, if there was some damage done during plowing, do those unaccepted roads, do they get put into the calculation of how many miles of road are included in the chapter 90, or?
If it's chapter 90, we only get money per mile per accepted road.
Per accepted. So if there is some damage to curbing on
We don't
unaccepted.
we don't do any repairs to unaccepted roads.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
There's some dirt roads that get yearly repairs.
Okay.
But it's, there's I forget what chapter it is, but we're allowed to do that. And I think it's up to $500, and I don't think we spend that much.
Okay.
Because the material we get is free. So it's basically the manpower and the machinery.
All right, great. Yeah, just thinking in terms of, is there an additional revenue stream that, could help the situation, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the thought. So James, I please work with Mike from a legal standpoint. Mike, if you can, if whatever the questions that we can't answer, if legal can help us get some of those answers. I want to make sure that you guys have due process to get to your, if you're gonna do the citizens petition and get the ballot vote, that's the prerogative of the association and yourselves. Go for it. I just want to make sure it's done properly and there's no other issues. On the back end of that, this is going to, it won't affect this year, obviously, so it's going to be next snow season if anything were to happen. So we've got to do some work on our end as well to understand the financial impact of what this could be for any private roads that have public ways on it. So I've got to do some work with Mike to help and I don't know, I need to get my arms wrapped around who owns what. This is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. What do we have jurisdiction over, and versus what you guys can do at town ballot. So, I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts here.
There's, one question, if I can, I kind of talked about, one of the questions I proposed was, if we pass the ballot initiative, we get 200 signatures on the ballot, and it passes, would the selectmen recommend plowing of the roads? And you guys wouldn't answer that, but I guess, because there's change in the boards and things, but I guess individually, if I could have your individual opinions, if you're willing to give them on, would you support a measure, the ballot question in general?
Yeah, not getting any opinion from me until I understand what this
Yeah,
means
he
from a
probably-
budget standpoint.
he
I have no
probably-
idea what private roads are in town that have public ways on it. Is this a $5,000 budget issue or a $25,000 budget issue? I have no idea.
I'd like to say, let me speak to it, and I'd like to know just what the financial end of it is, but I mean, I'm very, very conservative with what I do, and I would probably not recommend it. But I don't know that anybody would be asking my recommendation, so unless I stood out there with a sign saying, vote this question down, would I go that far? I doubt it. But, to what you're saying, Phil, that, you wanna work with Mike and wrap it, I'd like to at least keep this under old business, that it can perhaps be publicly talked about, so that at least the public has some idea, if they come forward with the petition, at least some of our discussion, cause I mean, the public and the voters deserve to know about it also, so.
What's the deadline again for the ballot to the town?
I think it's 6 weeks before May 2nd.
6 weeks.
So I don't know what that, if you work backwards, it's end of March.
Yeah.
March.
To the election, which is May 9th.
Yeah, it's gonna be 6 weeks before then, so March
Before town
24th or
meeting.
something.
Town meeting is the
Oh, yeah,
second.
but then the election's what, the 9th?
The 9th, yeah.
Well, I have I'm not gonna belabor the issue here, but I have other concerns regarding. I have been privy to other conversations by other residents from Little Hill, and what they want from the, really want from the town. I shouldn't say that, but that's just, there's just other things going on up there with this private surge.
That's
The
another
what?
concern.
Private surge?
There's a private surge treatment plant up there. And all those pipes run under the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that in the past, I have been in some conversations that, where some residents have stated that they want the roads to be made public. And I don't know if this, it's certainly not a conspiracy, I know what you're talking about with, as far as plowing the roads.
Right.
But it'd just be step one. And, not that I have an issue with the roads becoming public, but it's just a matter of, my issues is that the land has covenants with it. And if they have covenants that can just be ignored, why bother ever having covenants?
Okay, gentlemen, I
That's
think
what
you get a sense of our posture on this.
I guess, with all due respect, we were here in December.
Yep.
It's now February, and we, asked some specific questions that were discussed in the meeting, and then we submitted our meeting agenda request with questions again about the unaccepted roads, and we haven't really answered those questions yet. So, if we submit another request, can we kind of agree on what we'll talk about at the next meeting? Is that fair?
Yeah, first of all, I take responsibility. If we don't have the proper people to answer the questions here, then, I own that. And I'll make sure I work with Mike to make sure that the right people are here to answer the questions that we know we can answer for him.
Okay.
And I think it's gonna start probably, part of this is gonna start with planning. I would just get on the agenda as soon as you can with them.
Sure.
Maybe there's a purpose or not, but I think that they need to understand what we're having conversations about. And we need to get a sense from, on, again, some of the questions that I have internally for our processes. How do we know what kicks off, Pete getting a call to say you need to go plow, or him making a decision that he needs to plow an unaccepted road? So there's a few questions that I have as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Fred, Chief, thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no problem.
Come on up.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well,
How's your
thanks.
son?
Good, good. He's fine, thank you. You guys, you and the police are, and I don't know if it was Pete who came up with the plow he mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I can see, so.
Been a-
Yes, we've been taking advantage of taxpayer services with
Okay,
public
that's what we're
safety in
there
town
for.
in my
That's
house.
what we're there for.
Thank you.
It's a team effort.
Thank you. All right. So I wasn't at that last meeting, but I watched it on television, so I am up to speed in terms of this.
Okay.
Swap, I guess, right?
Yeah, what I'd like to, I did have the document with me when I was in front of the board last, but if, I didn't make any copies, but if you'd like to see, from Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus, this is dated January 4th, 2016, addressed to me, and Brindley Fire Apparatus is a used fire apparatus dealer out in Alabama. And I spoke to the president. He had some knowledge of this truck, had pictures of it, and basically sent back in a correspondence that, as it says, Chief Mitchell, as professionals in the used fire apparatus industry, Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus estimates the wholesale value to be approximately $60,000 for the 2003 Horton International Medium Duty Rescue Truck, and fair market retail value to be approximately $100,000 for the following apparatus. The 2003 Horton International Medium Duty Rescue Truck, known as Rescue One. So we did get a value on the truck on both ends, wholesale value and also retail fair market value.
And what are those figures?
$60,000 for wholesale value and $100,000 for fair market retail value.
And the equipment that's part of this exchange is at fair value?
Yes. Actually, yesterday I received an updated quote for the protective clothing from our vendor, Bergeron Protective Clothing in New Hampshire, Epsom, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Who's our exclusive vendor when it comes to our protective clothing.
So you're comfortable in that the value of the
Yes.
exchange
Yes.
is equitable to the fair value market price of the.
Yeah, the
Okay.
protective clothing is gonna allow us to be able to reset. Everybody's gonna get refitted, so they'll have a second set of gear. NFPA standards is 10 years.
Yep.
So we'll be able to look at starting 5 years, which would be 2021, to be able to start resetting the gear again. Each member will have a second set of gear, because when the gear is soiled and at a fire, or if it's bloodborne pathogens, it needs to be cleaned, laundered. And so that means they're out of service because they don't have a second set of gear. This is gonna allow them to have a second set of gear. Okay, and by doing that, we're gonna be up to snuff. We've updated our spec for our protective clothing as well. The quote that I have is on the 2016 numbers.
Sure.
The gear extractor and dryer. Right now, we have it's not a commercial, but a heavy-duty washer and dryer that was donated to the department. It's not, per the manufacturer recommendations, we need to have it properly laundered to pull the carcinogens out of the gear, out of the fabrics, from any type of smoke exposure and whatnot. So this is gonna allow us to properly, per the manufacturer recommendation, properly launder the gear. And also will tie into our annual gear inspection that we're supposed to do by law, by NFPA standards. And then the fire hose, that was just a rough, what we're looking to do, because we have no spare hose in the department right now. We do our annual hose testing back in October. Everything did pass, which was good. But we're gonna be coming up on replacing some of our hose per the manufacturer recommendation. And this is gonna be able to reduce the capital improvement proposal on fire hose, and also eliminate the gear extractor and dryer, and also bump down the road the personal protective equipment. Right now, we've been buying certain set amount of sets per year. So this is gonna kind of bring everybody up to snuff on that.
Okay.
And we'll make the adjustment on the fire hose, accordingly for the
Gotcha.
capital improvement.
All right, excellent, thanks, Chief. Gary,
you.
Doug, guys have any questions?
No, I think we got all the information in the last time, the couple of meetings that we've had about this.
Gary, anything to add?
I think it's a good deal.
What's the
Yes.
motion that I need to pass for this? So one, we have to declare the surplus property, and second, the motion to exchange Rescue One with the equipment from the City of Haverhill?
Yes, however, I had asked, legal to draw up a document to make the trade. And we have another document for you to sign tonight because of that. But it's not the actual trade document.
Okay.
Copeland and Page also represents Haverhill.
Yep.
So they have a conflict of interest. And they need both the city of Haverhill and the town of Georgetown to give them a waiver on that conflict of interest.
Great, that's an easy one. And then,
So, yeah, so your first act would be to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sign the declaration of surplus property that you have. And then then the full board sign the waiver of conflict of interest.
okay,
So they can then put together the document that will allow us to do the trade.
okay, so well, that will come at another time then. All right, so I need a motion to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sign the declaration of surplus regarding the,
For you to sign it, for the chairman to sign
for
it.
the chairman to sign on behalf of the Board of Selectmen for the declaration of surplus for the 2003 International Medium Duty Rescue Truck known as Rescue One.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, great.
So this is basically a consent as the appointing authority to the representation of the town of Georgetown and the city of Haverhill regarding the proposed agreement by Copeland and Page.
Okay.
Is this the,
Yeah.
So I need a motion to, this is for all of us to sign, to approve the waiver of consent to represent both the towns of Georgetown and Haverhill from Copeland and Page as presented.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You thought this was gonna be easy? Come on now. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right.
Great.
Step 19.4 is done.
Perfect. Thank you
Alright.
very much for your support, gentlemen.
Thanks for your
sign that.
patience.
Yeah, no worries. Nope, not a problem. It's, 4 months, I'm still learning, and, so tonight was another step in the process.
Oh, listen, we're learning here. We don't do this every day either, in terms of trading equipment, so.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah, I spoke with Chief Parrow today, and I told him I'd be giving him a call tomorrow. We've been kind of in touch, going as we move through the process here. And just a side note, we're gonna be doing some work with them. We're gonna be adding them to our response card for our rapid intervention, so it will be very good to be able to continue to work with them along with our other partners too.
Okay.
So,
So do you have a retirement party for old trucks, or do you just let them go away?
well, it's funny because when a new pumper comes in, fire department tradition is you have the wetting of the new apparatus, and that's where the new apparatus comes in, and you have the hose going over, and it's kind of wetting the truck, welcoming it into the department. So since we're not replacing it with another vehicle, usually you'll see the old vehicle pull out and the new one pull in.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna pull it out, and they're excited.
Wave
The guys are,
goodbye.
yeah.
So perhaps Haverhill will be doing that.
Oh, they're excited. Captain from Haverhill's been down. He looked at the truck, and the conversation amongst the gentlemen, the firefighters from both departments has been, from Haverhill, when's our truck coming?
Ah,
So,
all right,
they're-
sounds like
they're
a great
excited.
win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So,
appreciate the
yep.
creativity, incredible.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Have a good
Chief.
night.
Have
You're
a great
welcome.
night.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Durkee, let's get you home. I hear ya. That's why I had my Dunkin' Donuts bagel downstairs in the parking lot before I started. All right, so you are here tonight to tell us what's happening with the snow and plow situation, and
I was planning on coming to the last meeting that was canceled due to a snowstorm, and talk about deficit spending, or actually then I was here I was gonna talk about that we're halfway through the 104,000. Now we're, without the actuals from Mary, but I know where we are, cause bills just went out today, that we have about $4,000 left in the 104,000, and we have bills outstanding, so.
okay. Any idea what those bills outstanding might be?
I would say
Just a guesstimate.
15 to 25,000.
All right.
We've had, 5 storms that have been plowable.
Yep.
3 of them have been with a skeleton crew, and 2 have been with, everybody in.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
salt's $2,000 a truckload.
So, Doug, this is a little new to you, just in terms of deficit spending on the thing. Are you comfortable with understanding the mechanics behind this account?
I understand that.
Good, all right. Gary, do you have any questions, gentlemen?
No.
My only
Deja vu?
question is,
I just have a hope we have no more snow.
we should budget more, but
Okay. All right, well then I think we need so Mike, have we I think in our motions in the past, we've kind of put a number to that, right? Saying if it gets to a certain point, we need to come back.
Yeah, you have done that in the past.
Okay. So we're probably at 125 to 130,000 right now, anyhow. And I guess we're gonna get over the budget, right?
We'll be over the 104, yeah.
104.
But
So
I'm
you'll
not-
be about 30,000 over budget or
Yeah.
so, right now. So, you guys pick a number.
well, question, what's in free cash?
300,000.
Okay.
Don't say 300,000, because I don't want to be
Oh,
here.
no, that's, I
I don't
just
wanna spend that much.
I wanna be sure we had some,
Yeah.
I guess I would ask Peter, what do you recommend?
You can say if we're reach 150, 165, whatever you want, because I'm hoping it doesn't snow again. So,
I agree.
Me too.
You
Well,
know.
at least it looks like it won't for the next week or so.
yeah.
Okay. So, so now I'm gonna make a motion to allow the highway surveyor to deficit spend to the amount of $200,000 for the remaining snow year.
So moved.
I don't want to see him if it's snow. We'll know what's going on. Okay.
I guess I have to second it, huh? You didn't wanna go lower?
It's up to you guys. I don't know. We're at 140. It's $60,000 more.
I can
mean,
come
it
back
was-
and tell you
Yeah.
at each meeting, or send
Send a
paper
note.
over just to let you guys know what we're at each meeting.
If you would do that.
That's all dependent on whether or not we have snow or ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's over.
I hope.
Oh,
it is.
just don't say that. You just jinx yourself, dude. Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for what you're doing out there.
Have a good night.
There goes the
Thanks,
senior
Appreciate
center.
it. Yes, that's the senior center. Okay. Just send that back. Let's go down here. Okay, so we have a request from the town clerk to approve poll workers for the presidential primary Tuesday, March 1st, 2016. That
Do
is
we need to read all these folks' names?
as presented.
That's presented, that's included.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept, as presented, the poll workers for the presidential primary to be held on Tuesday, March 1st, 2016.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 I did have one
No.
question.
Okay.
Is it at Pembroke still?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you to the poll workers. We appreciate the
Yes.
the effort. I know it's a long day. Okay, we have a notice from the town clerk for the resignation of Carol Shelkowski from the Cultural Center. So I just want to say thank you, Carol, for
Thank you, Carol.
all of what you and the Cultural Council have been doing in town. Okay, and I'm not sure if that opens up a spot on the Cultural Council, but
it does.
Yeah, I think they have someone waiting, that they were waiting for the resignation to come in, so that they could appoint someone.
Yeah, it is.
Or
Okay.
put someone forward to be a
Seems to
part.
be some new people moving along there, which is good, yeah.
Yeah, they have a few new people.
Yeah.
Nora
Great.
Cannon has been working really hard.
well, if the Cultural Council is full, the Board of Selectmen have a few openings, so. All right, we have a new business on our Economic Development Committee
Do we
update.
want to accept her resignation?
Sure.
Uh-huh.
All those in favor of accepting the resignation of Carol Shelkowski from the Cultural Center, say aye.
Aye.
We don't
Aye.
have to make a
We
motion.
don't have to
No,
make a
no, you
motion for
don't,
that?
but that's
It goes to
okay.
town clerk and she
Well,
takes
Yeah.
Thank you, we approve your resignation.
I know, with some of them we're not going to approve. Okay. Mike, Economic Development Committee update, or is this someone else?
Well, I thought
I
that
think
committee
he's
was
going-
gonna be here.
Yeah,
Weren't
Jim
they?
Lacy was-
I think with Howard leaving, it may have, or there may have been some plans for him to be here.
Okay, all right.
On the last meeting, and
Okay, well, we'll table that, and maybe there's an opportunity for
See
our
if
next
they can-
meeting.
I
See
know
if they
that,
can come
if I
in.
can say that, we were trying to get out to go to some of the boards. I think we're trying to get on, to just make ourselves known.
And be fair, we've been shifting this meeting a little bit
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
so, this is between travels and different schedules here, okay. Just in terms of old business, we have nomination papers for several, positions, volunteer positions that have been open since February 1st. When do they close?
And towards the end of March, is it?
Yeah, I think it's closer to the end
I think 6 weeks before the,
Yeah, so we're at
it's
the
the
end
same
of
as,
March.
Oh, yeah.
6 weeks before the May 9th deadline.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd make it
So
like the end of
mid-
March.
Yeah. Okay, so mid-March. We'll get the exact date for our next meeting. Okay,
I'd just like to say, there are several openings.
Oh, thanks.
The selectmen have 2 seats open. It's a ball. So, so don't be afraid to put your papers in. It's fun participating in the community. But there are several other seats that are open. Thank you.
Looks like March 28th,
March 28th.
that's 6 weeks.
Get your papers in March 28th.
Probably should.
all right, the line starts at the front door. All right, excellent. And for those who, maybe Doug, just why don't you, wouldn't mind if you just read the positions that are available on that sheet? That'd be
Certainly.
great.
The following positions are available. 1 position for a 1-year term. That's the taste and see.
For selectmen.
For selectmen. There's another position for the selectmen for 3 years. There's a position moderator, 3 years. Town clerk, 3 years. Highway surveyor, 3 years. Planning board, 1 position, 5 years. Light commissioner, 1 position, 3 years. Water commissioner, 1 position, 3 years. School committee, 1 position, 3 years. Georgetown Housing Authority, 1 position, 5 years. Assessor, 1 position, 3 years. Peabody Library Trustee, 2 positions, 3 years each.
Great, thank you very much, Doug. Okay, Mike, if you'd give us a strategic planning update on what's happening?
Our third public session will be held on March 5th. Chuck?
Yep, you're right, Saturday, March 5th.
Yeah, that's me. March 5th, it's another Saturday morning at the Pembroke School. The first two sessions have gone really well. We had 30, at least 30 people at the first one, and 40 people at the first one, 30 at the second. We have draft vision statements that we want to finalize at this meeting on the 5th, and we'll also work on goals and action statements for achieving the getting us on the road to achieving the visions.
Great. And the next working group meeting?
The working group it looks like it's on the 22nd, next Monday.
Okay.
We'll finalize that tomorrow.
2/22.
Most people can attend on Monday.
So the time on March 5th begins at 9?
9 to noon.
9 to noon?
So, there was a conversation on the work group members, and I had asked that if you guys had someone that you would like to nominate to join that working group.
Yeah, I've been asking.
No, we sort of, at the last meeting, left it to Mike. That's what we voted to do, I thought.
We did, but I also asked if you guys had someone in particular that, you know, if you
Just
don't.
that was just for a broader base.
Yeah, so right now,
Okay.
you know, we have, you know, we've got.
Yeah, you sent the names.
You got those guys. So, all right, well, you know, it's not too late. I mean, if there's anyone that is interested, we'll certainly.
We took it out of your hands and gave it to Mike at the last meeting.
I saw. That's all right. I'm off this board shortly too, so I'll be at PMing pretty soon, as I was before. So, okay. So we need to also close the annual and special town meeting warrants, for the 22nd, right?
Yes.
Because we're not gonna have a meeting here, so we can close it for the 22nd. So I need a motion to close the annual and special town meeting warrants on Monday, May 22nd, 2016. February 22nd,
February.
sorry, February 22nd.
So moved.
Yeah.
I see.
Second.
Questions, comments?
So we just reopen it again when we discuss it, or is everything closed?
It's, well, we try to close it because I don't want to keep it open too long for citizens
Well, I do,
petitions
because
that we.
are you trying to do anything with the thing underneath, or that's not under the warrant, that's
The ballot.
okay.
Yeah, I don't want any citizens petitions to come in that we don't have time to react to.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's by our policy, so I believe that this somewhat fits, so.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, okay. All right, next, the Elm Street ballot question discussion. All right. Mike, maybe you can help me out on this. What's the, you know, what's the thinking that we would probably have for the best courses of action to do something with this?
Well, as it stands now, we're gonna be going out to bid on the Elm Street project, around May, beginning of May. I don't have an exact date, but, and the, you know, we have authorized, we're authorized to borrow $1.8 million. It would, it's not debt excluded, it would come out of the levy. If we go with a 10-year bond, I'd been working under the assumption that, and it was in the Mass General Law, that road bonds were limited to 10 years. I was informed by our finance advisor from the bank that that was changed to 20 years. I don't know exactly when. So we now can borrow for 20 years for road projects. The difference would be a 10-year bond for $1.8 million is approximately $240,000 a year, and declining during that 10-year period. A 20-year bond would start at approximately $165,000 a year and decline over, but not nearly as fast over the 20-year period. So you have those options, and you have intermediate options too. You could go somewhere between 10 and 20 years.
Gotcha.
And you have to decide whether you want it debt excluded or not.
So, from a fundamentals here, whether it's debt excluded or not, so, yeah.
This year's budget, if we added another $240,000 to the levy, we would be currently $750,000 out of balance. $750,000, and all those cuts would have to be made out of the various department operating budgets. And to get down to 500,000 in the hole is going to create loss of jobs. There will be layoffs. The only other option is to vote an override.
Why do we need to do this right now?
Well, because we spent several $100,000 on designing the road.
Well, we say that all the time. I've heard that so many times, and that's the reason that we wind up, well, we've spent all this money on studies and all this, so we might as well just do it. What I'm saying is, why do we need to attend to Elm Street this coming year?
Well, the question is gonna be, it's probably one of the most unsafe roads in the street. We made a commitment, the town made a commitment to, when the school was built, to renovate the road. I mean, your question is, can it be put off, is a valid question, but I'm just giving you the reasons on why, right? So one, the town voted on it. Two, it was a commitment to the homeowners who lived on Elm Street, if this town was built, that the infrastructure of that road would be improved. Three, from a safety standpoint, the police and highway have said that it's one of the most unsafe roads there, and we have more kids walking to school, not less walking to school. So those are the reasons why you'd want to do it now. The reasons against it are just what Mike said from a financial standpoint. So I think we've got to just come to a head of whether or not we can afford to do it now, or we want to do it now.
Question?
Sure.
How long do we figure the plans are good for? Do they have a life?
I don't know, Gary, I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I know like years ago, we kinda got into this where we got a grant to do our whole, I'm going way back, to do our whole downtown, and when the town did, we spent a ton of money, and then we never had the money to do it, and I think it took probably 15 or 20 years before it finally happened. I certainly don't hope it doesn't have to go that far, but my question was also, knowing where we are on the budget, does it need to go to bid this year? I mean, who's put this forward? I mean, was this you as finance director and town administrator? Was it finance committee feels it needs to be moved, the board of selectmen? I guess who's moving this at this point as?
It was.
I'm just saying, we need $1.8 million by May. And we're either gonna borrow it or we're gonna we're gonna borrow it, but it's either gonna come out of the levy or the, which I don't recommend, or it's gonna be debt excluded, which I recommend.
Or we decide not to do it.
Or you not do it. Now, there's certainly a shelf life on those plans.
Okay.
What it is, I don't know, but the one thing that would be driving that, if road standards changed, then whatever changed, you know, if they say it's 18-foot lanes
obviously
instead of
could.
15-foot lanes, or vice versa, you know, whatever the
Delaying
road
it
standards
will
are.
obviously be more costly.
Delaying it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Could be. Most definitely.
I think it's obvious, yeah.
Yeah, and interest rates will be going up. Right now, we're estimating, you know, on a 10-year, on a 20-year bond, it's 3.5%.
Then another question.
Good.
On the ballot question, whether it's a debt exclusion or not, you need 3 selectmen on that? Or you don't need like do you need like a majority vote here tonight? You need 2, or do you need 3 selectmen signing off on that?
Yeah, it would have to be a quorum of the board, a majority of the board. Put it on the ballot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think to put it on the ballot, you need the quorum of the board, not a quorum of what's here tonight, or something of that sort. I know we've had other things in the past, sometimes you need 4, so that's my question.
I think it's just a
Majority.
a majority
Of the board, I think.
of the quorum. But I'll find that out. I mean, I wasn't, this is just for discussion
Yeah, I'm not
purposes,
voting
not for
on it.
voting.
No, but I mean, we
It's
need
a-
to know going forward,
Yeah.
what do we need to put this on the,
Well, with 4 people you know, on the board, you'll need three yes
Yeah.
votes.
Yeah.
Now, if only 3 of you show up that night, I believe you only need 2 yes votes.
I think it might be 3.
I'll find out.
Okay, well, we're not gonna be able to, I'd love to hear some input from the Finance and Advisory Committee
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Are they meeting to discuss this at any point, or have they? If you're not sure.
No, we haven't, they haven't had any substantive discussion on
I
it.
don't think they're set to meet until their Saturday thing, aren't they?
That's
Or have they
correct.
scheduled
They,
in?
they met last week, but that was just to meet with the school committee.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
What's the date of their Saturday meeting?
the 27th of February.
Okay. All right, well, I think, we have an opportunity to hopefully walk through that question right there and see what their recommendations are starting to think about.
And the latest we can open and do something is what the date that Mike gave us earlier, sometime towards the
Yeah, it
end of
would have to
March.
be in March. I
28th.
think I said March 28th.
Okay. All right, we'll have to, see where this goes here. Things are not looking promising. If we're determining whether putting asphalt down or laying off people, I think that it's gonna be not as tough a difficult decision as you think. All right, thanks, Mike, for the update on that. All right, so on the town administrator's report, can you share with us the Novus agenda, the meeting management solution?
Yes, Janet and I have been doing a lot of research on this over the last 6 or more months. What we would like to propose for the board is to move into the 21st century and go with paperless meetings. Do away with everything you've got in front of you on the desk. And we can do that by buying some software. It's there's a lot of different types out on the market. We've reviewed them pretty extensively, and for price and ease of use and functionality, we believe that Novus Agenda will provide a solution, the best solution for us.
Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt. For the sake of time, is this something we can table to our next discussion so we can have a good conversation about it?
Last time.
Or is it something needy right now in terms of time? Because,
You wanna just do it? I mean, do you need a vote?
Have a free 90 day, I mean, it starts with a 90-day,
are you guys doing
trial.
it? To just
Is
get it
this-
started
is this-
for a trial?
It's a $49.50 per
okay.
year,
Yes.
so that's what they charge for the
A-
software
for-
and
a-
the
for-
storage in
Is
the
it time to
cloud.
go with finance?
Yes. It's cloud-based, and you can use, we already have the laptops. I was able to purchase them out of last year's budget. They've been sitting, waiting for us to make a decision on what package to use. This not only allows paperless meetings, you can have every meeting archived, so you can go back to the meetings. There's libraries that will load up with, you know, anticipating different you know, documents that you might need, as simple as looking at the bylaws. If you have a question about a bylaw during the meeting, you can look it up right on the pad. And it's gonna be scalable. This one price, we would be able to extend it to all boards.
One question, if I can.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Believe it or not, you probably remember years ago, I read that Ipswich was doing a paperless and went in the way they were doing it. At that point, you said it wouldn't be economical to go that way. Is this economical now in what we save on paper? I mean, what we're gonna save on the cost of paper copying and all of that, is it gonna help defray this cost? Or is it convenience driven?
It's more, I can't say that we're gonna, because paper's inexpensive, but it's going to be more efficient and more convenient and more effective. Janet can.
That we talked about.
She's not gonna be, she can put packages together.
And we pay her a decent salary to put paper clips together in paper. I prefer that we reduce the cost of the maintenance on toners on our printers. The paper is pretty cheap, but it's the actual wear and tear on the printers as well. For $5,000 plus we already have the hardware. Let's, if you guys, I hope we can just vote on it then if you guys are comfortable with it.
So what we're really voting on is a total investment for the first year of $5,700.
That's correct.
Well, why don't we,
And then it's $49.50 every year after that,
That's right.
unless they raise the price.
Yes.
why don't we at least do the trial and then revisit it?
You're gonna be able to do six meetings for free. And
That's like 3 months?
yeah,
Okay.
90 days from when we send this in.
Do they need a commitment for us to do this 90-day trial, or can we just try to do the 90-day trial?
They need a signed commitment.
Okay, and after 90 days, we're not satisfied? We can walk away from the contract?
That's correct.
Okay. Can I get a motion from one of you guys to approve the acquisition of the Novus Agenda Meeting Management Solution proposal?
I guess if you can authorize me to sign the,
To authorize our town administrator to sign the contract for year one?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to authorize our town administrator to engage in the purchase of the Novus Agenda paperless meeting system as presented, for a total cost first year $5,700.
So your motion basically approves it. So your motion basically is approving it.
That's what I thought. That's what I said.
All right. But then if we're not satisfied, we'll, okay.
Right. Well,
I'll second, discussion.
Discussion.
We'll reassess this at some point. We won't just let it slip under the boards.
In
and
90 days.
go away.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Mike,
Or
so
the 90 days are up.
so you please let us know what we need to do to make this a successful pilot.
Okay.
let's vote on it.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 That was tough.
Aye. All right, we can finally fire those those.
It's a ball, as I heard earlier.
Oh, you're gonna have so much fun with the tablet. Okay. Community center update for our senior community center. Mike, what's up?
The general contractor bid is gonna be, we're getting the bids a week from today. We already did the sub-file bidder for the electricity, for the electrician part. That came in $3,000 under our estimated $26,000.
Okay.
Whittier is starting next Wednesday.
Oh, great.
The only hiccup so far is because we're starting a lot later than Whittier wanted to. They wanted to get in there in December. He realistically doesn't feel he can finish the entire project by May. But that's not a real big issue because he can come back in September and finish. We're gonna have the general in there in the summer anyway. So, it might delay the starting of the program by a month. We weren't anticipating getting in there until probably after Labor Day. So if he can come in, they're gonna start with the staff offices and the front door. They'll do the demo, build all the staff offices, and then in September come back and do the multi-office
In
room.
that one room.
And that'll, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they could really start up the program without that being built. It's not ideal, but, you know, they still have the other three main rooms and the staff will be centralized over there. So it's not ideal, but it's not a killer.
Is Colleen aware of that?
Totally aware of it.
She's all set with that?
Yeah, she'd rather, I know her initial feelings is she'd rather wait till it's all done. But, you know, we'll see how that goes.
All right, great. Thanks for the update, Mike. Good job. Okay, I have a motion, if I get a motion to approve the secondhand shop license for Vintage Vault.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the second-hand shop license for Vintage Vault at 14 East Main Street to expire December 31st, 2016.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
What is this community development department discussion?
Oh, yeah. Community Development Department discussion. Sorry, Mike, I missed that.
Owing for the time of the night, I guess I'll put that off to another date.
That sounds self-serving to me.
Thank you.
No, because I've been wanting to do this for, believe me, but I don't know about the attention span of my audience at this point.
I can't even read this thing.
And I was actually hoping that the Economic Development Committee was gonna be here too.
Yeah.
So maybe we can reschedule them.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, do you guys have anything that you'd like to add before we adjourn? Our next meeting is on Monday, March 14th at 7 o'clock. Is that it? All
We're
right.
not meeting, we're not meeting on the 29th of February.
That was up to the board. That was a decision you were gonna make tonight.
Okay, great. So then
You wanted-
February 29th,
you wanted to add
not
it.
next Monday, the following Monday.
I can't make it.
You've been clear on that, he can't make it, but I'll make sure that Dave can make it as well. So February 29th and then March 14th. And then don't forget, on March 5th is Saturday is the vision workshop. All right. Then I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. All right. Good night, everyone.
Yep. Good night, Dave.